time to come.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, recording has begun.
Just say thank you, and I tried those meetings. I thought I had that time. Okay. I lost it.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our October 21st Town Council regular meeting. I would like to officially call this to order at 6 p.m. Madam Town Clerk, would you please do a roll call?
Mayor James,
Here.
Councilman Gutenberg,
Here.
Councilman McCormick,
Here.
Councilman Sampson,
Here.
Councilman Johnson.
Here.
Madam Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. Would you all please stand up with us and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all. All right. Hopefully you all have had an opportunity to look at the agenda today, and I will entertain a motion to approve the meeting agenda as presented.
Said motion.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, in unison. I love that stereo.
There we go.
Any discussion? All in favor? Oh, sorry. Madam Town Clerk, could you please do a roll call? If you are in favor, please say aye. If you are not, please say nay.
Councilman Gutenberg,
Aye.
Councilman McCormick,
Aye.
Councilman Sampson,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor James.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Thank you very much. Brings us to a disclosure of the closed session for meeting that we had on September 23rd, 2025. In accordance with the Maryland Open Meetings Act, General Provision Article 3-211, we are required to include specific information in the minutes when a public body meets in closed session. To ensure full compliance, we have attached the written statement that includes the reason for closing the meeting, the statutory authority permitting the closed session, a listing of topics discussed, the individuals present, and the action taken. This documentation has been made part of the public record to maintain transparency and meet the legal requirements of the Act. Next up is our public comment. If you would like to speak, I ask that you state your name, whether you live in the incorporated town limit, especially if you are coming back and are new to our town limits. And if you could limit your discussion to your topic to 3 minutes, that would be appreciated. So,
There we go. Now I'm on. Victory Towns of the Washington Rochambeau Revolutionary Route. Washington and the French gathered in New York, marched right through Charles County down to Yorktown to victory during the Revolutionary War. The route is maintained by the National Park Service. However, there is an organization called the Washington Rochambeau Revolutionary Route, which is shortened to W3R. And they are the folks that are responsible for promoting the route, promoting towns along the route, and La Plata falls right on the route. And so I have information for council members tonight. If you choose to become a member of the Victory Towns, there are some benefits, and I think those benefits are that people are looking for America 250 events and places. This could certainly be a tool to promote the town of La Plata. If you choose the leadership level, there would also be a plaque installed in town. If you choose to go the lower level, the county membership, you still get a road sign to tell people that La Plata is part of the Victory Towns Washington Rochambeau route. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak this evening? Okay, well, thank you very much. Moving on to matters of council discussion. First up is the Firehouse Museum presentation by the Historic Preservation Commission. Mr. Stevens, do you want to lead it off, or we're just going to go straight into
I
it?
think we can go straight into it. I think you have a series of informational presentations this evening, and this is the first of a few.
Wonderful. Come on down.
Good evening. Well, I'm
Good
glad to see the clocks aren't running for me here. Though I do know that you guys have a tight schedule, so I'll move quickly and try to get through this. I think you've seen draft versions of the presentation I'm going to give tonight, so hopefully there won't be any surprises. First of all, as we look at this effort and what the work that's been done so far, I have to give some special thanks. First of all, Kelly Phipps, in some of her previous roles, helped us to get this thing started and kicked off. She helped us get integrated into the architectural study that we're going to talk about in a little bit. And she helped us get hooked up with some of the other committees that are already working on the museum before us. Also want to bring praise to the Volunteer Firemen's Association, who have been helping us along with this. They're the real experts on fire history in the town, and they've been very helpful to us. And I want to call out Ron Rosenthal, who's sitting behind me here. He's one of the volunteers on the HPC, and he did a lot of the work behind the scenes on this to make this go. So really happy for their participation. We have a couple of objectives here. First of all, the HPC and its objective overall is to bring the history of La Plata alive and accessible to our citizens and visitors, invigorating the town center at the same time. And Mayor, you may recall our lunch when I first took this job, and we talked about this. And this is exactly what we've been doing since we chatted, and continue that work still today. Our purpose here today is to obtain some town council approval in principle to a couple of things. First of all, that indeed this project is intended to become a museum of some sort in the future. Oddly enough, when the new council came on board and we got the new planning manager and I met with him, there was no documentation that said, yeah, that building should be a museum. I kind of assumed it. It wasn't there. So we need to get that statement into the record as soon as possible.
Rich, one second. Can we, who's running the slides? Is that,
Oh, I'm on slide 2. Kelly,
There you
I'm
go.
sorry, I'm
Thanks.
supposed to say slide.
there you go.
Yeah, perfect. So the second objective is to listen to what it is that our strategy is for the building and how we're going to move forward with it. And let us get to the point where we can start doing some more detailed work, because we only have preliminary information at this point. Next slide. In terms of the background, most of you are aware that the building was originally constructed in 1929. I hope some of you have had the chance to go through there. If you haven't, I'd be happy to walk through the building with you and show it to you. It served as the firehouse until 1962, when the fire department moved to the building that is now the Charles County Elections Office. And then they moved again to their current location on Washington Avenue. And the Charles County Rescue Squad also moved to Calvert Street around the same time. The building was renovated in 1992, and that's when they built the one-story section that's there today. It was originally just a ceiling to cover vehicles, and they turned it into a building there. They could store some more of the trucks and vehicles. The town acquired the building in 2002. The Charles County Fire Museum, and it was open there, and it had remained open for quite some time. The Volunteer Association kind of ran out of dozens to run it, and that's why it ended up closing. But all the materials are still there in the building. That fire truck, if you haven't seen that fire truck, it is gorgeous. They did a tremendous job renovating that truck, and it's beautiful. There's a memorial garden in the back that I know you're all aware of related to the tornado. And using grant funds, the building has had some work done to it already, the painting outside and some of the other work that's been done. Next slide. I'm not going to read all that fine print. The town published a beautiful video of the firehouse. If you haven't had a chance to see it, it was in the newsletter 2 issues back, I think. So take a look at that and some of the details there. Next slide, please. In terms of the actual work that's been done, the staff contracted architecture, JD Holmes Architects, and they did a tremendous study to look at what can be done to the building, what needs to be done to the building to get it safely opened and prepared for public use. It was originally put together with the beautification committee because they were only looking at the one-story portion of the building. We added scope to the study to include the two-story portion that would ultimately become a museum or some other use. Hopefully, we'll all agree on that. The study was submitted to the town in April of 25. Areas that were covered were the zoning compliance, building code compliance, ADA, additional work required, mold remediation, especially in the one-story part of the building. The mold is a serious problem. And then, of course, egress and ADA solutions. Next slide, please. From a strategy standpoint, this is a project that we're doing jointly, working with the between us, the Beautification Commission, the La Plata Community Garden Club, and La Plata Volunteer Fire Department. We're all working together to develop this vision, and all have been involved in those discussions. We held discussions with Beautification Commission and the Garden Club as well. We've been interacting with the Volunteer Fire Department and the Charles County Rescue Squad as well. So we're trying to bring all the stakeholders in. We're trying not to reinvent the wheels that have already been created. We're looking at a potential two-phased approach, which would begin with a soft opening to reopen the historic firehouse museum that's already there. And then the second phase would be the full completion of the building to make it ready for a full opening. We recommend the name of La Plata Town Museum rather than Firehouse at the recommendation of the Firemen's Association, because they said, if you want to draw more than just firemen to this thing, call it the Town Museum. And I thought that was a great idea, and we took it on. The soft opening could be done relatively quickly. That would bring us to open up the first floor of the museum where the fireman stuff is. It needs cleaning, it needs painting, it needs general repair, but it could be set up relatively quickly and inexpensively. The rest would take longer, and it would probably be paced by funding and other factors so that we don't know yet. Next page, please. Now that in the right page. Recommendations, I should say. There we go. Thank you. So first of all, as we've talked about, we want to continue our coordination with those other stakeholders. We want to pursue the two-phase approach for the building. We want to have help from staff and HPC to work together to develop the project detailed planning for this effort and initiate the soft opening effort to reopen the historic firehouse as part of the La Plata Town Museum. Obviously, the first recommendation, though, is to say, yeah, it should be a museum. And the other room, the common space in the single-story section, has a lot of opportunities to be used as meeting space. It could be research space for history. It could be a lot of different things, and we'll build the, work to design the room that can do that. So with your approval, we'll work with the town manager and director of planning to get things started. I did get some questions early on, so let me try to address probably the biggest one that's on your mind. There was questions related to the funding. If you go to the last page, please.
Well, is you answer those questions going to open up us for questions back and forth, or should we just wait till he's done his presentation?
I think wait till he's done and then we will open the floor up for questions if he may answer.
Yeah, I'll try to hit
Question.
some of the things that I heard about. And I'm sure my information is only partial anyway. So we talked about potentially saving a lot of money if we use volunteer support, especially for the soft opening to get this started. And this page refers to what is in the world of possibility. The current budget for the soft opening, as laid out in the architect study is $21,000. And I would tell you, by the way, that price estimate is very preliminary. What they did was they used existing industry standard tools for doing estimates and applied those to get to numbers that you see in the report. If we get moving on this, then the first thing we're gonna do is update all these. But we were looking for budgetary planning level accuracy in all this and nothing more. So we're kind of working from that baseline, which is a little bit soft, and you should know that. However, if we do the volunteer work and primarily focus on painting and some other activities related to the lighting, because there's a program from SPECO where they'll change all the lights for free, we can probably save the $8,000 that we reference here. And people were asking about how would you do that? That's what we're looking to do. With that, I'll stop. I'm trying to conserve the time for the discussion because that's probably the best part of this anyway. If anybody has any questions, let me have it.
I will open the floor, but I just have to make one comment because I know that Kelly and her team were very instrumental in taking it from that green, mossy green building to this beautiful fire red museum, and they did an amazing job. So it is beautiful outside. So I know that they're working hard inside. I will reserve any questions till the end. Do I have anybody who has questions for Mr. Gilpin?
Yes,
Okay.
Madam Mayor. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Giplin. Thank you for the presentation. You already got my questions. So, I appreciate the history and the background that you provided. What is the appetite for what we want to call the town museum, right?
Sure.
In the community?
Yeah. I have to admit that when I saw the question about appetite and studies that might have been done about demand signals for all of this,
Sure.
I've not seen any.
Okay.
I would tell you that if there was places I would start to look if I had the time to do so, would be back when the decision was made to buy the building in the first place. And when I would be looking at the grant application that went in to refurbish the building as potential sources. Now, that said, this museum provides a pretty unique opportunity and facility for the town to showcase our history. The other kinds of facilities like Wills Park or commercial facilities, I think in the question there was a reference to Green Turtle and the like. We can use those spaces for meetings, but nothing like this. So I don't think there's anything really comparable to what's envisioned for this. We do have the small train museum that already exists, and we would be able to free up half the space in there to do just train focus and do the rest of it in the new museum. So they go together.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you. So, not to minimize the history or what the asset is to the community, there is, when you look in the capital improvement plan, this is in there for $45,000. One, I'll just tell you, if we're going to do it, obviously we will have staff go back and do some research and get back to us if that's the will of the council on what this looks like. But for me, for my determination as part of one of the ones that will vote would be, if we're going to do it, we need to do it all out, right? So, I think about like the liability of, and I'm glad you clarified what volunteers meant. It would be SMECO coming in to do electrical work, but I would just been worried that if we have to do some type of general contracted work and we're using volunteers that's not contracted, what would be the liability, not only to the person, but to the town? My question to staff, and it might not be tonight, would be the concern of how does this relate to what is the feasibility of getting this done in a timely timeframe like you want, the soft opening, with the amount of other competing projects that we have going on in town. So I don't think I'll get the answer tonight. And I think, depending on how, at the end of this, we'll give staff direction to go back and get a staff report together for council to give us just a little bit more history, which your PowerPoint is great. I didn't know it was the first firehouse in town. So I appreciate the context, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I would add that when we talk about volunteers, this wouldn't be a general call out to the town. Hey, you want to work on this? Come on in. We're going to do this. No, we would do this in the context of a complete plan, and staff is going to oversee what we do here anyway to make sure that it's properly inspected, is compliant.
Absolutely.
And all of that. So the volunteer work that we're talking about is generally simple labor to paint and small stuff like that. Even the floor preparation, we thought would be beyond what we could do because that's grind the floor and put epoxy down and all that. And that's beyond what we think we could do. And we're going to defer to the experts and do this right. So fully agree with you that it needs to be done right.
Yeah.
And in terms of timing, it all depends on how fast we can get started. When I worked for the Navy, my favorite question was, how fast can you get it done? My general answer is, it depends on how fast we get started. So that would be really helpful if we get started, but it wouldn't take very long, measured in months,
Okay.
not years, to get to
Sure.
the soft opening. Beyond that, like I said, it'll be paced by other factors like the financing and the like. And there was some question about financing, and right now there's not adequate budget to cover all of that we're talking about here.
Sure.
And aside from looking for more money from within the town, I think there's some great opportunities to go outside the town budget and get community support. We've already sent a paper just exploring this back before the election and all that, looking at what could we do with SMECO, for example.
Mm.
And if one of the big expenses is a heating and air conditioning system. If SMECO installed the heating and air conditioning system, we'd be happy to put all kinds of signs up and displays about how this is eco-friendly and green and latest technology. And that would cover a huge chunk of the bill that we don't have covered right now. So there are things that we can do. We can get sponsorships from the towns, the businesses in town. On the train museum, for example, we have a voice system that describes the caboose.
Mm.
That was built by Avian Corporation down at Lexington Park, and they paid for that. So there's places to go get money, and it doesn't have to be ours.
Thank you again. And then Mr. Rosendahl, I know you're not up there, but thank you for your work on the commission, and Rich, you're the chair to all the members on the commission.
Yep.
And I appreciate the PowerPoint.
Thank you.
Councilman Sampson.
So just a couple questions. I saw the 143,000 in the preliminary budget.
Yes.
So if the town was to fund that amount, would that, on that preliminary budget, would that cover, say, 80%, 90% of the estimate?
That is the estimate for the whole project. So it would cover it all. Now, like I said, this is a soft
Yeah.
estimate. I suspect it was done conservatively to be higher than it should be, but we've all
Yeah.
lived through this. So, but that estimate is what we think the whole project will cost. The $21,000, which is included in that number, is just to get to the soft opening.
And if the council was to approve the soft opening, what would your timeline be? In other words, would you be willing to wait to say next fiscal year to see how much funding, if any, the town could provide going through the
So-
budget process, or are you trying to do it faster, or
Well,
what's your thoughts?
so the answer to the question will drive the answer. Your question about where the money comes from. There is money there in terms of the grants that's still left and needs to be spent. And I'm not precisely sure when that expires, but we should probably use that money first. And it's more than adequate to cover the soft opening. So that plus the small amount of money that we have in our HPC budget, we could cover the soft opening. Don't need any more money. It's there.
Okay, and so for the soft opening, I'm just making this up, if we said yes today, when would the soft opening be ready?
Well, I'd have to work with planning, so I'm going to caveat it with
I
that.
got it.
But if we could just get going, I would say within a year.
Okay.
Tops. If you need it to be done at a faster pace, we'd have to explore that.
Okay.
But it's not that complicated because the first floor is in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
It was a museum and we're going to turn it back into one. So
Okay, that's all I had.
Thank you very much. Councilman McCormick, do you have anything?
No question.
I just want to say thank you very much for the work you did here. I will tell you I know we're going to have a discussion on consensus or vote or whatever, but I think a lot of this makes sense, that secondary and tertiary impact to this. Big reason why I joined the military was before, obviously with 9/11, all that, but living in New York was going to those memorials as well. I think a secondary and tertiary impact here could be more folks joining organizations like the La Plata Police Force or even volunteering to be a fireman. So I think this, when you talk about overall good governance, certainly hits that. And I want to say thank you very much again for looking for unique ways to make La Plata stand out. I really, really like this presentation.
thank you.
Yeah, just a quick comment. something I've talked with Rich about as the council representative on the Historic Preservation Commission is it's notable how much volunteerism is surrounding this particular commission, and there's really a lot of activity with volunteerism around the fire hall. The historic fire hall. And so I will like to say thank you to the groups, the Garden Club, the Beautification Committee, the HPC members that have been involved in this for so many years. There's interesting stories you hear in the Planning Commission. I learned from one of our residents on the commission that the reason why that building was green is the council at the time reused paint that was used to paint the water towers that color. That's why that fire department was green
I
for
heard
so
that
many
same
years.
thing,
Yeah, then that's just like one of those cool things you learn when, on some of these boards and commissions, right?
Frugality.
Yeah, yeah,
Probably why Navy ships are gray.
that's right. There was a good deal, and yeah, so and it's beautiful now, being restored back to, I don't know if that was its original color or not,
was
but
not.
boy, when you look at that thing now, you know what it is, and so that's cool. So what I think, though, I'd like to comment on is that related to the project, what we have here is a working budget that has been made in on a commission by essentially, resident volunteers. And so the need really, I think, to go forward and from talking to some of the other members of the council about this before tonight is that there's really a need to get a staff report that gets a professional scrub on this, tells us really in decision space, what do we think the risk is to this being much higher than it is when we're dealing with historic preservation. And we look at a budget that says $143,000, but you're talking about a building that's nearly 100 years old. There's risk there. So we need to hear what that is. And there's potentially different, scenarios that this can go through that we need to hear. I think there were questions, related to the ARPA funding and how that interplays with other elements of the decision that has to be made. So I think that's, and I'll let others maybe speak to what needs to be layered in a staff report back to us so we can get to a resolution on how we want to move forward as a council.
Thank you.
Sure.
First of all, I'd like to actually echo what Councilman Gutenberg said about partnering with different stakeholders. That is so important. We can't do all of the heavy lifting, and I love that there's the community garden group and the other organizations that you have identified that are in, they've got a say in that. So thank you very much for that. It sounds like we have $42,000 in the budget right now for that, but my concern is when you say a soft opening, the one thing that I have heard for the last several years is that it's not ADA compliant. And I understand that being the second tier on there,
Right.
but the bathroom, I think that has to be resolved before the doors open. And I'm not 100%
Yeah.
sure on that.
Okay, yeah, you're right. The bathroom is on the other side, on the single story side. So we'd have to figure out a plan for access to the bathroom. And then in terms of the big projects for ADA compliance, we'd have to look at what can we do with upstairs because there's no elevators going to go in there or any of that. But there are ways around it and are still compliant, so we can do that and we can follow the spirit of ADA to give accessibility to all our citizens and do that. The other thing I just want to mention to Paul's, the building was renovated in the 90s. So it's been cleaned up. It's got, for example, a fire suppression system in it. There's sprinklers in the building and the like. And it's structurally, it's sound. The roof doesn't leak or any of that. The only reason we have the mold in that separate room that's so terrible is because the HVAC isn't really plumbed for that. That's part of the reason we need a new system to get control on humidity and those things. So, yeah.
So one of the first things that before we can even make a decision, I guess, is to make sure that it's ADA compliant. But there are some really fantastic Maryland State Arts Council grants. And I know I was just talking to Mike about that, is that I've testified for La Plata in order to get some grants on that during legislation a couple of years ago. And the fact that we have now been designated as a tourism state, that is huge too, because little things It's just the little gems, like you said, the train museum for the kids to come in. That was so well done. There's so much information in there. And to have, I know it's not the Firehouse Museum, but the Firehouse Museum, to have people come here. And to Maggie's point, this next year is America 250. So what are we going to do when we're bringing them down here? And I could see, my brain just goes wild on the prospects of what we could do with a beautiful museum like that. But safety first, compliance and safety and compliance, and then funding. And it may be that since it's not but 42,000 in this budget, it may be something that's a priority if the council says it is for our budget for next year to do phase 2. But I'm going to throw this to you, Chuck, and see what our next steps are.
Sure.
and
I
I'll
think,
let
I
you
think
tell
what
me.
I've heard is that there's an interest by this council to have staff do a little bit more research and legwork and come back to you with a staff report, lay out some of the pros and cons and highlight some of the risks associated with it. But it definitely seems like there's interest in hearing more about this topic.
Does anybody disagree with that? All right, so that will be the will of the council, is to have staff dig in a little bit more and give us an update
Let
on
me know
that.
how I can help in whatever information. The architect's report is pretty good as far as how that budget was built.
And thank
And,
you so much for a great
And
presentation.
I have to ask just one more time. All that you just said to do is perfect. Is it a sense of everybody that, yeah, we're going to do a museum here if we do anything? Is that too much to ask, or should I
I
not?
think the staff report will let you know what we're
Yeah.
doing or not.
All right.
So
I
stand by.
know, 'cause the minute
It'll give you a pretty good indication. Yeah.
I had to ask, no worries.
Yeah, you got the floor. Why not?
Yes, yes.
Doesn't happen.
Thank you
often.
so much.
Thank you all very much.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Safe Streets for All project update. Mr. Stevens?
Sure. So your next presenter is going to be Jamie Kendrick. He is going to be virtual this evening, though he's going to be here in person next Tuesday because he's got a couple more projects. So you're going to get to meet him in person. And I see him online. Is there a way? I guess he has a presentation and we're going to see that just like we did the last one, right, Kelly?
It's showing.
There it is. Okay. All right. So again, this will be Jamie Kendrick. And Jamie, if you want to go ahead and take it from here, and you've got two topics back to back, so they might just flow naturally, one straight into the other. So he's going to cover Safe Streets for All, and then he's going to talk about the Southwest Access Management Plan.
Mr. Stevens, should we wait until both are done for the presentation in
I-
order to ask questions?
I think that's a question for Jamie to answer right now. I wasn't sure if he wanted to stop or if his presentation is just going to flow straight into the next one. So we can ask him that question now.
Good evening. I think I've put a chunk in between to have conversations. I would say if you have questions about the Southwest Access Management Plan, hang on until I'm going to mention it in the first part, but hang on until the second part we can get into that a little bit more. So good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. It's good to be with you all for the first time. I've been working with the town for 4 or 5 years now, starting with your comp plan, and then taking on any other number of transportation and capital projects over the past few years. I'm excited to be talking to you about the Safe Streets for All program, which was championed by former Councilman Jenkins and others as a way to bring resources to La Plata to deal with areas of high risk and high need for safety improvements. And that is a $360,000 grant that the town received. I'm going to say we a lot because I feel like I'm part of the town here. That we received for a variety of safety improvements that I'll talk about. I think it's important to note, however, that this USDOT program is focused really on serious injuries and fatalities. Now, we know that a serious injury or fatality can happen anywhere or anytime, but we also know that there are certain roadway conditions, user behaviors, et cetera, that make things more or less risky. But we have to kind of keep that big picture. That was the purpose of the overall grant program in mind. So as much as we might like to try and solve for every small neighborhood traffic calming problem, the bigger picture here is serious injuries, fatalities. Again, recognizing that there's risk in many different venues. Excuse me. This project for the town began when Charles County adopted a local roadway safety plan about 2 years ago now. And that safety plan identified US 301 through town as well as Maryland 6 as two of the high priorities for the county. The county then, or the county, for whatever reason, did not pursue any of the grant funding, but the town did. There are three types of grants that the town could have applied for. The first one was the action planning grant, which had already been done by the county. Excuse me, and the town endorsed that. Very just broad aspirational statements in that countywide plan. Second type is for more detailed planning. They call it supplemental planning, and then for demonstration projects. I'm going to use the word demonstration in quotes because the way that this program was structured, they want you to make it as permanent a demonstration as is possible. And there are certain materials that we can't necessarily turn earth, but we can come really, really close for those demonstration projects. And then lastly, implementation projects. And I'll show you one of those as we talk about the Southwest Access Management Plan. So we have 2 to 3 years to complete this. Again, $360,000 in federal funds, $90,000 in local funds. Those are spent over that 24 to 36 month period. I believe this is already budgeted for, so it should not be news in that regard. Just a couple of thoughts about specific projects that we envisioned when we put the grant together. And we need to do some more work on these, but Washington Avenue, albeit a county road, is important to the town. We get lots of speeding up and down. There have been 2 fatalities, although one I guess was north of Rosewick Road, and one was south. A lot of runoff the road into people's yards. We have mild chaos there at the Alpes intersection that we would like to be able to address. So we could use rapid flashing beacons. We could reframe the intersection with visibility crosswalks, lane reassignments, speed control measures, and other strategies along Washington Avenue that will make it easier to walk up and down where there are sidewalks, and across where one should be crossing or want to be crossing. So that's a kind of a larger, I'll call that a mid-sized project. Then a smaller project, this came up a few years ago. We've incorporated it into the bikeway, which I'll be talking about next week, I believe, is Willow Lane. There's been a longstanding request to do traffic calming on Willow Lane. We had to spend some time with the school system figuring out what they would be comfortable with the buses, so many buses passing through there. Finally, we got the signal in, the turn lane put in, and that gives us some flexibility now to do some buffered bike lane, which really the purpose of that is for traffic calming more than anything else, as opposed to speed bumps, which would not be great for the buses. So anyway, this would be a smaller demonstration project that we would potentially move forward with. And then I'll talk about the Southwest Access Management Program in a second. So of the $450,000 in the grant application, we initially had some sidewalk feasibility studies in there, but with the work being done by SHA along Maryland 6, and then with the library project, we felt it really wasn't the right time to get too much into sidewalks. And frankly, the amount that we had set aside wasn't really going to go as far as we had hoped. So we thought there were better uses of the money to put things on the ground to make roads safer today. Excuse me. So the Southwest Management Plan is 175 bikeway breakout projects, which you'll hear more about next week. 140 townwide traffic calming. These are really, this is a kind of to be determined pot. We know that there are some neighborhood specific issues that need to be addressed. I spent some time last year on Glen Albin and St. Mary's, I believe it was, working on some stop signs and other traffic calming measures. We know there's a good number of others like that to tackle. So the grant agreement was signed. It took only 9 months from our federal partners. We have gotten the first round of environmental approvals. Once we have a head nod from the council and the town manager is ready to go, we'll get consultants assigned to some of these and then get moving, hopefully in the next couple of months at the most. I think that's it. Yep. I'm going to turn my screen off so I can see you all better, and then I'll come back to Southwest in a minute.
Thank you very much, Jamie, and thank you for all of your hard work. This has been a long time in the making, and it was so exciting to receive this grant because any money that is not taxpayer money, oh, you know how it is directly like that. If it's a grant, I know we pay for it some way, but at least it's coming towards us to do improvements and safe streets on that. So I'm going to open it up for some questions from council, should there be any. I'm going to start with Councilman Gutenberg. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I do. Bringing up the library, in the next, I think we're inside of 3 months or less from hearing about the library on the Planning Commission. And so as we start to address that, and really this would apply to other things as well, at other preliminary plats that we're going to review, are there opportunities to pair the kind of work we would do with grant money to do traffic calming or sidewalk initiatives that connect our other walking and biking networks with things that we put in conditions in the in preliminary plat approvals that would elevate or emphasize these things to make the grant money even more effective by pairing it with something that we have either a developer or, in the case of the library, ourselves in the county do in concert with it.
I mean,
It's really
Mr.
long
Dooley's
list.
not here, but I'll maybe jump in for him to
Yeah.
say, absolutely, you know, this as the planning commission can put those types of stipulations in most cases. And I think you'll see some of that come up in the Southwest presentation in a few minutes, how those things evolve or don't evolve over time.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
I hope that was okay to speak for him.
Yeah, and I would, yeah, he's nodding his head. Yeah, and I would be looking for those kinds of recommendations from staff where we can pair those and kind of tip off the planning commission where we can be helpful in moving those things forward like that. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilman McCormick, do you have? Okay, Councilman Sampson? Councilman Johnson?
No questions. Thank you.
I do have a couple here. Traffic calming. I think it's pretty calm during the twice a day during Washington Avenue. It doesn't move at all, so it's pretty darn calm. But I say that in jest because we really do need to address that. But you know, I have spoken with residents on Washington Avenue for years, literally years, about getting sidewalks there. And Jamie, as you well know, it is a county road and the county controls the purse strings there and the want to put those in. The people on Washington Avenue do not want sidewalks. And I just had a conversation over the weekend with someone that lives on Washington Avenue, and they said, well, the activity is no longer downtown. It is now moving up to Rosewick. So that was their way of saying we don't need sidewalks. I disagree. I think sidewalks should be everywhere for the safety of our residents. But that is, I love how Councilman Gutenberg said to pair it up with the library. You have people walking on Washington Avenue all the time. And when you have Talbot going through and the library there, we need to make sure that we are putting safety as number one, as you have already demonstrated that by getting this grant. So that's the only comment that I have. I would love to see it work with the library and any other projects that we have going. Thank you, Jamie.
And I will say, I think there's a couple of small gaps that are not very impactful to property owners on Washington that probably could be addressed over time. The closer you get into town, the more difficult it really becomes without affecting, you know, large trees, fences, drainage. It becomes a real bear. So, but there's a couple of gaps that I think over time ought to be looked at.
Well, there's nothing worse than building a sidewalk to nowhere. So we need those connectors. All right, moving on, the
Shall I switch over?
Southwest Access Management Plan.
All right, I think this is going to share again with any luck. We good? All right. So let me start with a tale of two towns. On the left is La Plata, and on the right is Prince Frederick. I love both towns. Both have been clients over time. Prince Frederick had a plan back starting in the 80s as they started to grow that created two, I'm not going to use the word bypasses, I'm going to say loop roads on either side of Maryland 2-4. And kind of successively as developers built their project, whether it was an apartment building or a retail center or the county built its library, on the right-hand side, the Prince Frederick Boulevard got built all the way through. The one on the left has taken a little while longer to develop, but again, kind of on a chunk by chunk basis, has been built. On the La Plata side, on the left side of the map, excuse me, there was a plan many, many years ago to have that's a similar loop road that would wind through what would become many subdivisions. Not, not right, how do I say this? Not with people's houses fronting in a high-speed kind of way, but to create a parkway-like loop road through the west side of La Plata. For a variety of reasons, some of which we could debate and discuss ad nauseum, that did not come to pass. And so, what was intended as a 2 to 3 lane, 30 mile an hour, through road all the way from Rosewick down to Old Stagecoach has just never come to pass. And the outcome is, I've heard, I know Mr. Sampson and others feel strongly about, is that we have a middle community stuck there without but one access point. And there is a longstanding need to address that. Now, the other side of that coin is this may be one of those places where you're going to have to rescue yourselves. Because I think, from State Highways perspective, the town approved these, the town knew what it was doing, didn't require certain things over the course of time. And I'm not going to tell you that you're stuck with it, but they're going to look for the town to provide some leadership in making something happen on the Southwest. Not to say they won't participate, but look for the town to take the lead in this. About a year and a half, 2 years ago, just real quick, some things about 301s. On the far right here is the crash history, and obviously concentrated around Charles Street. But then as you come further south, there have been a good number of crashes there, both property damage and injury at Centennial and then at Glen Albin, and then down towards Catalpa, for a variety of reasons. People making U-turns in high-speed locations, people turning left when they didn't have the right-of-way, some run off the road, a variety of reasons that those crashes have occurred. Traffic actually, the volumes, despite all of the growth in and around La Plata, the volumes on 301 have actually remained relatively consistent over the years. If I'd gone back and put 23 to 25, you wouldn't see much of a change. It may have eked up just a tad bit, but the volumes have remained pretty consistent. And so SHA will also bring the perspective of north of 6, we may have some traffic issues to resolve. South of 6, everything functions kind of as intended. So that's another reason the town's gonna have to show some leadership here to move a project forward. What that looks like, we'll talk about in a second. Oh, excuse me. So about 2 years or so ago, the town convened a work group of community members, developers, planning commissioners to try and sort through some options for the Southwest. Knowing that full loop road was not going to come to pass, we needed to come up with some short-term ideas that were really focused on safety issues at Catalpa, and then some long-term ideas to make sure that as additional developments occurred, those access points were not just put in or planned in, but enforced through through plats and through other subdivision approvals, etc. So we looked at 6 options on how to do this. We looked at direct extension of Glen Albin over onto the Montero property. There's a ravine that goes kind of through there that's a bear to overcome, and probably a good part of why this didn't happen many years ago when Steeplechase, the first parts of Steeplechase were built. We looked at some consolidating some entrances on developments that were proposed there between Glen Albin and Catalpa, some of which have already developed, has already gone away. So that was always, we think that that could work, but it's so dependent on so many other variables that it just doesn't really stand out as something we could do soon. We looked at a very feasible kind of bringing back, or very difficult bringing back the loop road idea a little bit farther out. But that would just be really impactful out near Bud Farm, and it just probably would just further drive desire for growth and development west, where the town does not have annexation plans. And then we looked at restoring the initial loop road concept coming through LaGrange, which is now, I guess, coming through Planning Commission, Mr. Dooley, if it already hasn't. If it already has or hasn't, I don't know. But that ravine is just a real bear. And frankly, once you get to the other side on Steeplechase, there's nowhere really for it to go. The roads were not built to be through in that part of Steeplechase. So where we came back to was to focus on making Catalpa safe for left turns in and out, while maintaining SHA's access management standards, trying to also address safety issues at Glen Albin, and preserving the opportunity for future connectivity if the Montero property is ever developed and we can find a way back, along the stream and over. This concept here is called a Florida T. Why they come up with some of these names, I don't know. But basically, it allows free flow traffic to continue while protecting left turns in and out. So this is a split screen image here. The one on the right could either be, or would be at Catalpa and would be at Montero one day, perhaps. On the left is Glen Albin. So again, you would have a signal that stop traffic to allow people to come in and out of Glen Albin while allowing traffic to come all the way up to that point. And then likewise at Catalpa coming all the way down to the entrance, but a signal at Catalpa, a half signal, I should say, at Catalpa. I'm not the best at explaining traffic engineering concepts, but hopefully your imagination can get you there. The benefit of this approach is that it doesn't require cooperation from many other people besides the town and SHA. And we had, when we did this study a couple years ago, SHA, didn't blink. They've done this Florida T concept in many other places. So that was a positive. We think this is probably of all the ones, the lowest cost to construct and the quickest to construct, but I'm going to use the word quick in great quotes because we know that quick in infrastructure land is not. But we think that there's a real path forward on this one. And that path forward also includes the $175,000 that we set aside in the Safe Streets for All plan to do the preliminary design with the goal of, by May, potentially having an application ready for the next round of Safe Streets for construction. It's going to be a hustle. We got to get started, but we think that that's feasible. And we think that, there's lots of discussions to be had about who pays for what, but we'd rather get in that queue if we can for, a follow-up grant on for construction if we can. And I think, best case scenario, if somebody wrote us a check tomorrow for the probably $2 million or so to do this, we'd be looking at sometime in early 2029 before we'd start construction. I wish I could tell you it'd be sooner, but infrastructure land just unfortunately is what it is, and we've got some environmental issues here to deal with as well. But it's a path forward, and we think it's the right path forward at this time. So I think that's all. Yep. So let me stop sharing and take questions on this one.
Thank you very much. Lots of information from there. I did some research and I was doing a little bit more research. Well, when Steeplechase first came about, their master site development plan was approved back in 2005. So I guess there wasn't that vision of having the two entrances. That's the biggest thing that we hear now. But subsequently in 2021 and 2022, there was more expansion and there were other approvals that were done by Planning Commission and Council. So this is a very hot topic, a very interesting topic. So I appreciate you looking at this through different lenses, that you're coming in and doing a Florida tea, which is a little different than what we've seen around here. So I will open up the floor for questions. I'll go with you, Councilman Johnson. Do you have any questions for Jamie?
I do have a few questions and a few comments. Good evening, Mr. Kendrick, excuse me. This is Councilman Johnson. A few comments. First, thank you for the presentation. I appreciate it. First, I will tell you, I don't think the time frame in my head was 4 years. I don't know what it was, but I was not thinking 4 years to construct. But thanks for clarifying that. So in that 5-year period study, there was about 390 crashes, and about 78 of them were left-hand turn crashes. Do we know how many of those crashes were T-bone related? Or did the study not go that far?
It's not that the study did or didn't. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back into the data file from the state police and see how much more detail it gives. I think it probably just tells us that it's left turn. I'd have to pull crash diagrams to get further.
Okay, yeah,
You don't have
to do that. I appreciate it. I guess where we are today with the current setup, particularly talking about Glen Aubin and Catalpa, or right past Catalpa when you come out of Public Works, is it more likely that based on those two throughways that, maybe not. I wonder what the likelihood of a crash when it does occur, unfortunately, would it be more likely to be a T-bone? Or I guess the way these intersections are set up, it will just be a rear end or a side swipe per se?
Is this gentleman a traffic engineer?
No.
Using all the correct terms. Yes, that is the benefit here is, I meant to say this when we're talking about safe streets. We can't prevent all accidents. The goal is to, or crashes, excuse me. The goal is to kind of mitigate the severity of them as much as possible. And so, yes, a side swipe or a rear end is going to be far less impactful than a T-bone or a left turn. Not that we want either to occur.
Absolutely.
But I think that's kind of the point you're driving at. Yes, it would be far more likely for it to be a side swipe crash than a T-bone or an angle crash.
Okay. And my other question would be, I was listening to a planning commission meeting a couple of weeks back, and part of that development, I don't know if it was traffic study or part of the conditions of improvement for the master site development plan, they were required to do intersection improvements outside of that Pine Grove neighborhood. I know that 301 and 6 was one of them particularly. Did it not go as far south as this to help pay for this type of intersection? Do anybody know?
I think you'd have a hard time from a nexus standpoint legally pushing something down here at below Maryland 6 on 301.
Okay. All right, that was it. I appreciate the presentation. It was great learning about the Florida T-style intersection. But then again, me saying I didn't think it would take 4 years gonna make it happen overnight, but I appreciate setting the landscape for us.
I think what was the gentleman from the train station, or excuse me, from the fire station said, when are you going to get it done? Question is, when can we start?
Very well, thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilman Sampson?
Yes. So the first thing I'd like to say is that I appreciate the analysis that you did. I did speak to slightly over 200 residents in Steeplechase, either in person or electronically or via phone. And I will say they were in support of the Florida T intersection. Now, obviously they didn't think it would take that long, but it is what it is. They were in favor of that as a measure of temporary relief. Safety was a big concern. They felt it was better than what they had now. You answered one other question that I had. The residents wanted to know about how long would it take. And this is not something that I'll go into here, but I know it will come up among the residents would be would there be a way, and I know we can't answer this here, But would there be a way to do something like this before the next phase of steeplechase is up? Because that was a big concern. And, but I'm in support of it. The residents support it. It's about a projected, I guess, 2029 if we moved with all deliberate speed, which is really 3 years out because it's almost January now. And so I think just from me meeting with the residents, I think they would be pleased with that. I think the only thing that would be an issue is if the next phase of steeplechase started before something was done. Other than that, I have no other comments.
And I want to thank you for engaging the residents of Steeplechase and getting their feedback. That is very powerful. And you bringing that to us, I thank you. Councilman McCormick.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kendrick, very much. My two questions were answered. First, how long are we looking for this? So Councilman Johnson, thank you for addressing that. And second, Councilman Sampson for answering, where do the residents in Ward 3, specifically Steeplechase, actually fall on the recommendation? It sounds like the two are aligned. No further questions from me at this time.
Councilman Goodberg.
Yeah, just because it was brought up earlier, I'll just confirm for the record in this meeting that the LaGrange preliminary plat was approved by the Planning Commission a couple of weeks back, and that was done in a way that took into consideration that previously council had evaluated that option 1 interconnection, that it required building of bridge infrastructure that simply wasn't going to be feasible economically. So that is really off the table. So we're really left with more solutions that look like this. I think a question that can't be answered here, but with option 4 that I see there and the T intersection structure that we were presented here tonight, and the fact that the town has acquired the Montero property, I'll be interested to hear how that helps us in pursuing these things to remedy the long running problem with just that one access point out of that very large development being Steeplechase. So I really appreciate this information in this kind of detail. It's really helpful context, particularly for myself serving on the Planning Commission when I get to see stuff like this and then bring it with me to what we're evaluating there with preliminary plats and how these things interconnect. It's just really valuable to see stuff with this amount of detail. So I appreciate it, sir.
Thank you so much, Jamie. And we look forward to seeing you in person next week.
Can't wait. Thank you all so much. Look
Thanks.
forward to
Have a
working with
great
you.
night.
Take care.
All right, that brings us to our next item on the agenda. It is utility bill assistance for La Plata residents and businesses. Mr. Stevens?
All right, good evening, council. I'm Chuck Stevens, your town manager, and I'm going to start a little bit. I know everyone is aware of the federal government shutdown, and you're also aware that we have a number of members of our community that are either directly or indirectly impacted by that. So what staff is providing for your consideration tonight is legislation to potentially assist those affected by that federal government shutdown with the town of residents and businesses that have the town of La Plata utility charges by providing an extension to the due date, waiving the penalties and fees, and establishing a new due date. Town council has taken this type of action in the past. In fact, in 2019, the council did pass a similar resolution to provide relief during that federal government shutdown. The fiscal impact of this action, should council choose to move forward, we believe is going to be minimal. The measure provides temporary relief to residents and businesses affected by the federal government shutdown by extending utility payment due dates, waiving the penalties and fees, and establishing that new payment deadline. Because all billed amounts remain due in full, the resolution merely defers the collection timeline rather than reducing or eliminating revenue. While the town will forego the collection of late payment fees for bills paid after the original due date, but before the extended deadline, we believe this will have little to no budgetary impact. The town's budgeted revenue from late fees is conservatively estimated and does not represent a material portion of overall utility fund revenues. Revenue collected from late fees and penalties have averaged about $31,700 per quarter for the last 4 quarters billed. We believe this action will provide short-term financial flexibility for affected residents and businesses while maintaining the town's fiscal stability and revenue integrity. We believe that this action would align with our strategic plan, specifically strategic plan goal number 1, good governance. And In your packet for your review and consideration, we've also addressed sustainability considerations and ADA considerations. Your recommended action this evening would be to approve Resolution 2025, providing temporary utility bill payment relief to Town of Lepata residents and businesses affected by the federal government shutdown by extending payment due dates, waiving the assessment of penalties and fees, and establishing a new payment deadline as specified in the resolution. And I'm happy to try and answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, and thank you for a great staff report on that, especially how thorough it was. Do I have any questions from council? All right, go ahead, Council McCormick.
Mr. Stevens, thank you very much. I want to shout out Ms. Minor, who sent this email and recommendation based off of past actions that the town has taken as well. So want to give you due credit for bringing this up. I do have a question on the actual attachment, Resolution 2525. I'm a little confused here, so I just clearly for edification. In here, it states that we're going to give temporary utility bill payment relief to folks that are impacted directly by the government furlough or shutdown. But then here it states that's going to go to all residents. I would hope it goes to all residents. I just want to make sure I know, is it blanketed across the board? Or are we asking people to actually provide some form of proof that they were impacted by the government shutdown?
And where are you looking in the
The
resolution?
difference, yep, the difference between the agenda item summary and then the actual resolution
So the
itself.
resolution itself says, for the purpose of assisting those affected by the federal government shutdown.
Okay.
So that's the language that would be enacted into law, and I'm using air quotes around law, right?
Sure.
So that's the language that we would use. So for those affected by the federal government shutdown.
Would they need to provide a government ID? How does that work?
I think that would be an operational question that the staff is going to have to put our heads around and figure that out. But I believe that the way that this is worded would give us some latitude and discretion for staff to be able to figure that out.
Okay, I speak only for myself, not the council. I
And
think,
If I could
Sure,
just elaborate, because
absolutely,
we
yeah.
know that you don't have to be receiving a federal government paycheck to be
That's the point,
affected by
exact-
this.
and
And so I
bingo.
think, I didn't write this, but I think whoever wrote this, it was a very elegant way to address that. So those affected by the federal government shutdown.
Makes perfect sense. And again, I was going to bring up that point as well. So thank you for bringing it up, which is just because you're not directly working for the actual federal government during the shutdown, or you're even contracted by a third party who's directly in a relationship with the government during the shutdown, 25% roughly of Charles County residents have some sort of relationship with the government. That obviously extends to La Plata here. So we're all certainly feeling it, and I'm really, really happy to see this. So thank you for explaining that kind of latitude we have on the left and right limit there. That makes me feel a lot more confident.
No, real question. I just wanted to say, once again, I'd like to thank, Ms. Minor for, this and the, staff for the work they did on this. I think it's a good proposal. Just as a, thing I think to think about, I think if the government shutdown lasts longer, like going into deep November, we might want to look at a forgiveness, maybe 1 month out of the quarter. That's just something I'm throwing out there. Also, I noticed that one of the things I always hear about when it comes to utility payments is predictability. And I'll just use myself as an example. So my bill averages usually about $500 for 3 people every quarter. So, I pay $125 a month. I just pay in advance because that makes it easier. It's more predictable. And so one of the things, once again, I'm just throwing it out here that, maybe we ought to offer, and I'm talking about right now, but down the line, maybe a budget billing option to help with predictability, cash flow. Other municipalities do it, ranging from gas to utilities. So I think it's something that we could at least think about. But overall, like I said, I support this. I think it's a good plan. Those are just things to think about in the future, not now. But I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. Councilman Johnson?
No, thanks for bringing it forward. No questions.
All right, I am looking for a consensus to move this forward to legislation. Madam Town Clerk, could you please take a roll call? If you are in favor of this moving to legislation, please say yay. If not, please indicate by saying nay.
Councilman Gutenberg,
Yay.
Councilman McCormick,
Aye.
Councilman Sampson,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor James.
Yay. Did you hear me? Yay.
Yes, I'm sorry, ma'am, that you have a consensus. You were,
I don't know how else to say it. All right, thank you very much. It will be seen later on this evening. Next on the agenda is the purchase of security cameras. Mr. Stevens.
All right, it's me again. Council, the American Rescue Plan Act was signed into law by President Biden on March 11th of 2021 as a $1.9 trillion federal relief package in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. It was designed to provide direct economic assistance to individuals, support state and local governments, strengthen public health response, aid businesses, and invest in long-term recovery efforts. The town of La Plata received $4,029,308 in American Rescue Plan Act funding during fiscal year 2023. The town's department directors met collectively to review priorities and identify areas where ARPA funding could provide the greatest benefit to the community. Through these discussions, directors evaluated operational challenges, infrastructure needs, and opportunities to strengthen public safety and service delivery. One of the needs identified was the replacement of the town's aging and failing security camera system. The current system has become unreliable and increasingly difficult to maintain, creating gaps in security coverage. Updating the system with modern technology was recognized as a critical investment to enhance safety, accountability, and readiness while aligning with the town's long-term strategic goals. Depending on year-end financial performance, a budget amendment from the unassigned fund balance or a reassignment of expenditures within the current fiscal year may be necessary to fully fund this operation should council choose to move forward with this legislation. The fiscal impact of this project, the security camera project was originally allotted $150,000 in ARPA funding, which was placed into the town's project reserve fund until specific needs were identified. Following an evaluation of priority facilities, Town Hall and the Police Department headquarters were selected as the two sites most in need of upgraded security camera systems. Skyline Technology Solutions provided formal quotes for these locations totaling $109,092.59, well within the amount allocated. This leaves a balance of approximately $40,907.41 in reserve for potential future security enhancements or related infrastructure needs. The purchase will be made by piggybacking under the 2024 Carroll County contract, ensuring compliance with procurement requirements and leveraging favorable pricing already negotiated by another Maryland jurisdiction. The installation includes 21 Verkada security cameras, a system chosen for its long-term value, ease of use, and advanced features. Verkada's cloud-based platform centralizes security operations while offering AI-driven analytics, such as person and vehicle recognition, improving situational awareness and response capabilities. And because Verkada is the sole proprietor of its technology, the town benefits from secure proprietary innovation without reliance on third-party vendors. From a fiscal perspective, the system provides strong return on investment by minimizing ongoing costs. The cameras come with onboard storage, end-to-end encryption, automatic software updates, and a 10-year warranty, eliminating the need for annual storage or maintenance fees. And as you saw in your packet, this aligns in a number of ways with our strategic plan. In fact, I think it hits all 5 of our strategic plan goals, number 1 through 5, and I won't recount them here for you. And also in your staff packet, we did address sustainability and ADA considerations as well. Your recommended action this evening would be to adopt Resolution 25-26, the purchase of security cameras, authorizing the use of project reserve funds to contract with Skyline Technology Solutions for the installation of 21 Verkada surveillance cameras at Town Hall and the Police Department headquarters.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you to Captain Norris, Chief Norris and Captain Payne for doing such a great job on finding an economical way to ensure safety in our town by piggybacking on the Carroll County contract, saving us $40,000, give or take. So thank you very much for that. I will open the floor for any questions from council, should there be any.
Yes. Yeah. So I as well am really pleased to hear, we're taking opportunities to leverage other contracts like this to save the town money. That is always good to hear. The thing that made me want to ask about this and bring it out of the consent agenda tonight is just some of the features that the system has. And so the thing that drew my eye is that the system has the capability to do person recognition and license plate recognition. And that where these are going to be installed in the town center, around the police station, along the main street here between the police station and the town hall. A number of residents who live locally here are walking through the area all the time. And so I think that that's a relevant question that people will have living in the area is, you know, is in what way am I being tracked or monitored in that? And also, so my concern is that the town, if we one, I want to know if we're going to be implementing those features. And if we are, I think it's extremely important that the town have in place policies for the release and the way that those features can be used. And I think they should be strictly limited to law enforcement.
Yes, sir. And sir, I appreciate getting the question in advance because I was able to coordinate with the police department. So I have responses for you. So
Okay.
the short answer is that all of those features can be and will be disabled. They will not be functional on our systems. Okay. But further, there is some law around this, and under Maryland law, and I can cite the criminal procedure if you like, live or real-time facial recognition is prohibited. So in Maryland, this feature is not going to be turned on. Okay.
Understood.
And then furthermore, under the Maryland Public Information Act, video footage from government building cameras may be subject to disclosure. However, release determinations must take into consideration, and I'm going to read you a couple of those. And these would be reasons why we wouldn't, these would not be responsive to an MPIA request necessarily. So footage depicting security sensitive areas or that could compromise safety. So think of entrances, restricted zones, or security layouts. Those could be withheld. Any footage containing personally identifiable information, including facial images or vehicle license plates, must be redacted prior to release to protect privacy. Okay. Footage involving ongoing investigations, law enforcement operations, or personnel matters is generally exempt. So there's already some carve outs. And then the last thing I do want to say, though, is while those features will be turned off and disabled while they're in use here, it's also my understanding that upon review of the footage, they could be reactivated for investigative purposes. So if there was a situation where there was an ongoing investigation, it's my understanding that they could pull the video and then re-enable that feature if they needed to, but that would be by law enforcement only.
Understood. That answers the question. Thank you, sir.
And great question.
Thank you.
Thank you for submitting it beforehand so that Mr. Stevens could give us a really well-defined answer. Councilman McCormick, do you have any questions?
No, I don't. Thank you very much, Captain Payne and Chief Norris, if you're listening. Thank you for putting this together.
The question that I have is piggybacking off of Councilman Gutenberg. Do we actually have any policies in place currently right now on the use of that? Because I do know in the Maryland law, it can be used in certain situations, even though I don't think it applies for this initial deployment. But I was just wondering, do we actually have any policies or protocols?
Yeah, I don't believe we have any specific policies concerning this right now. So in absence of any town policies, obviously we're going to defer to the state laws that I cited just a moment ago. Now I know that because of this deployment and the future installation of additional cameras, I know that Captain Payne is working to develop procedures that'll address that and cover any gaps that might be missing.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Johnson?
No questions. Thank you.
All right, so we're looking for a consensus to move this forward to legislation. If you are in favor, please indicate affirmatively with an aye, a yes. If you're not, a no or a nay. Madam Town Clerk, would you please do a roll call?
Councilman Gutenberg,
Yes.
Councilman McCormick,
Aye.
Councilman Sampson,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Yes. And
Mayor James.
Yes.
You've reached a consensus.
I will indulge you for 1 second.
thank you. Hopefully, Mr. Stevens, I did have a question that I submitted to you in advance. The ongoing operating costs in the capital budget, it says 61,000. My apologies. Is that something we should be concerned about or?
Correct. There is an ongoing operational cost that included electricity, and I didn't pick that up the first time. So there's going to be an increased electric bill that goes along with this. And then I think the bulk of that $61,000 will be staff time, whether it's overtime or whether it's a part-time employee to review the footage.
Thank you. That does not change my vote, but thank you for indulging me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll see that a little bit later for a vote. Next on the agenda is the Let me see, Town Hall's host server replacement, Mr. Stevens.
Yes, and this one strikes, near and dear to my heart as a former IT professional. These things are unfortunate. It pains me to have to talk about hardware failures, but that's exactly what happened here at Town Hall, as the council is aware. So on September 23rd at around 8 p.m., staff were alerted that several of the town's servers were down. Upon arrival on September 24th, staff discovered various issues. For example, no access to our local drives, no access to the shared drives, our email function, internet connections, print servers, scan. It was a bad morning, is what that was. We contacted the DataPrize help desk. DataPrize is our managed service provider, as you're aware. We contacted the help desk. They immediately escalated it, by the way. I can't really thank them enough for the way and the manner in which they escalated this issue and began troubleshooting with us. And over the course of several days, DataPrize was able to restore some of the servers and restore most of the commonly used features, but that's a Band-Aid fix at best. Upon review and analysis, we discovered that we actually had a hardware failure. It was a physical hard drive that was at end of life and it failed. And on that hard drive were 4 virtual servers. So that's why it was such a widespread incident. The fiscal impact of this action is going to be about $37,836.47 to replace the town hall's failed end of life server and the related professional services provided by DataPrize. This expenditure was not included in the FY 2026 adopted budget as the server failure was unanticipated. Funding for this purchase will initially be absorbed within the existing information technology budget to the extent possible. However, depending on year-end financial performance, a budget amendment from the unassigned fund balance or a reassignment of expenditures within the current fiscal year may be necessary to fully fund the replacement. And in your packet, you've got the strategic plan alignment. We think it definitely aligns with operational excellence as well as public service readiness. And you've also got sustainability and ADA considerations in your packet. Our recommended action this evening, Council, is that you adopt Resolution 2527, the Town Hall host server replacement, authorizing the town manager to execute the DataPrize Professional Services Agreement, quote, number 007128, in the amount of $37,836.47.
Thank you. Mr. Stevens, you mentioned that it's not in our FY 26 budget because we did not plan for that. However, in the IT budget, we had planned for a person. Will this, I don't know how much money is that, will that take some of the sting out of this 37,000?
It will likely cover it entirely. And so if I can just take this as a segue, jumping off point to T's budget is coming, and we're going to have a great conversation in here in December about budget. And what you're referring to, Mayor, is commonly referred to as vacancy savings. So we funded for a full-time equivalent position in the IT department, and that position has not been filled for the first, I guess we're 3 months into this fiscal year. So there's savings associated with that, and those savings live in the general fund. So yes, in all likelihood, this expenditure will be covered by those vacancy savings, but that would require, in that statement that I read to you here a moment ago about a reassignment of expenditures within the current fiscal year. As we get through the end of the year and we come back to you later in the year, April, May timeframe, and we have, a lot of those adjustments and everything rolled up for you, we'll ask you to remember that we had this conversation tonight, and everybody will go, okay, yeah, I remember that. But we're going to be saying we need to move money from this line item into this line item to cover that expense.
Thank you.
And if I may, we
please.
did make an offer for that IT position. I don't have confirmation yet. It was, okay, so November 3rd?
Yes.
So November 3rd will be the first day, and that individual's name is Stephen. And so we look forward to bringing him on board.
Please ease him in. Don't scare him.
Okay.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mayor James, for asking the question you did. I'm going to shamelessly plug something here. So I see our town treasurer is smiling in the back. So I want to shout out the finance committee meeting that actually highlighted this exact issue and answered that exact question. So really good explanation there as to how, hey, we're keeping this as a placeholder right now. There's a chance that it can come from savings within the actual budget itself for example, a vacancy saving or whatever other types of savings there is. If that's not the case, then that's what a reserve fund is for, and that's the proper usage for it. So I see you smiling back there as the question was going back and forth. Thank you very much for that explanation.
No question.
All right. So we need a consensus to move this forward. Madam Town Clerk?
Councilman Gutenberg,
Yes.
Councilman McCormick,
Aye.
Councilman Sampson,
Yes.
Councilman Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor James.
Yes.
You have reached a consensus.
Thank you very much. Now we go to our discussion of items that council members have requested to be put on a future agenda. And tonight we're looking for consensus whether they move forward or not. And I'm going to throw it to you, but you might just throw it right on back. Mr. Stevens, do you have anything to say?
No, I believe the first topic tonight was introduced by Counselor Johnson and has to do with charter amendments.
The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Stevens. So if I may, I'll stay within my 10 minutes, set the landscape on how I interpret this. Obviously, Chuck will work with our special counsel to make sure this is the correct way. In the state of Maryland, there is a local government article that governs local governments in the state of Maryland. And section 4-304, article 4-305 governs how charter amendments come about. So there's one of two ways. One is an amendment by the legislative body, which is the council, or two, petition from 20% of the registered voters in the town for a referendum. For this intent, it will be the legislative body enacting this if it's the will of the council. So I'll just read off a few of the headlines from the article, and that's section 4-304 of the local government article. The legislative body of a municipality may initiate a proposed amendment to the municipal charter by a resolution that, except as otherwise provided within the subtitle, is adopted in the same manner as other resolutions in the municipality by a majority of all the individuals elected to the legislative body. Before adopting a resolution initiated by the legislative body of a municipality that proposes an amendment to the municipal charter, the legislative body shall hold a public comment on the proposed amendments, give at least 21 days notice in advance of the public hearing. The chief executive office for this intent and purposes is our town manager, Mr. Stevens. The municipality shall give notice of the resolution that proposes an amendment to the municipal charter by posting an exact copy of the resolution at the main municipal building or other public places for the 40 days after the resolution is adopted, and publishing a fair summary of the proposed amendments in a newspaper of general circulation in the municipality at least 4 times, A, or B, at weekly intervals, and C, within 40 days after the resolution is adopted, or publishing a fair summary of the proposed amendments in a newspaper of general circulation in the municipality at least once, and delivering a copy of a fair summary of the proposed charter amendments either by hand or mail once every resident in the municipality. The delivery required under paragraph 1(2)(b) of this subsection may be accomplished by including a fair summary of the proposed charter amendments in a printed newsletter or any other regular municipal publications. The municipality delivering a copy of the fair summary of this under the subtitle shall maintain a record of a copy of that receipt for delivery under the records retention and document disposal schedule of that municipality, and make the record of copy available to the general public in accordance with the Maryland Public Information Act. That is the extent of this body. Of course, the residents of the town may oppose to these within 50 days through a referendum or by having at least 20% of the qualified voters in a municipal general election say they don't like those charter amendments. So that was just laying the landscape. Mr. Stevens sent to council some work product that I put together and shared with you all. So the background is I have compiled the following proposals, and Madam Mayor, if you will, I'll loop Article 3 and 4 together so that we don't have to go, and then I'll stop and pause for conversation and then go to the other articles, if that's okay.
That's fine.
I have compiled the following proposal amendments to the town charter for consideration. This proposal reflects my personal commitment to good governance and I believe aligns with the spirits and intent of the council goals established on the 2025 goal retreat on September 11th, where consensus was reached to pursue updates to the town charter. It is in my view that the proposed changes represent a meaningful step towards enhancing good governance and aligning our operations with the town's strategic objectives. The guiding principle behind these proposals is that the way in which we operate is as important as the outcome, emphasizing long-term sustainability over short-term gains. So the first two articles is Article 3, which governs the council, and Article 4, which governs the mayor. And the changes is salary to total compensation. The rationale is, well, before we get to rationale, just to ensure transparency is number one. But if it's easier and more feasible for staff to keep the word salary, I ask that we define it via ordinance to only include base pay, retirement contributions, and/or health insurance if that's applicable, with no other monies paid outside of approved expense reimbursement. This measure aligns with good governance, manage all assets as responsible fiduciaries. So that's Article 3 and 4. If you all want me to keep going, I will, or I can pause.
Keep going
Okay.
so that we can.
Yes, sir. All right, and then the next one is Article 5, which is the town manager, which we have. Article 5, it says the town may have a town manager. I'm proposing that we move that to shall, as our form of government is a council manager government. Add language that serves at the pleasure of council, removes fixed term of employment language, which is 5 years. The rationale is to ensure that the town retains a professional administrative leader to maintain operational efficiency and manage day-to-day government operations. This aligns with our strategic goal, good governance, ensure fair and transparent decision-making, and operational excellence, retain professional staff. The other article is underneath for Article, I think that's 9, for personnel, specifically the town attorney. And Madam Mayor, when I mention this is no dig at you. It goes, the mayor may appoint, to the council shall appoint, and it adds serve at the council's pleasure. The rationale is to align with the town code, Chapter 4-2, which states the town council has final authority over all town affairs, and the town attorney is directly responsible to the town council. That language or that proposal and intent aligns with good governance, serve as responsible stewards of community trust, and operational excellence, retain professional staff. I would like to introduce conversation around a new article or amendment to an article that staff think is appropriate. Resign to run provision for any office not consistent with this charter. Add a provision requiring any elected official to resign before becoming eligible to run for another public office not consistent with the charter. If the term of office sought begins before the term of the current term ends on this body. The rationale is this promotes accountability, transparency, and fairness, prevents conflict of interest, and reinforces public trust. The intent aligns with our strategic plan, good governance, serve as responsible stewards of our community trust. I don't believe there's any significant impact, fiscal impact other than staff review and attorney review for particular language. I mentioned the goals. Goal 1, good governance, manage all assets as responsible fiduciaries. Council, mayor compensation, manage all assets as responsible. Town manager, ensure fair and transparent decision-making. Town attorney, serve as responsible stewards of the community trust. I will ask, obviously, to engage in conversation, but I would ask that we reach a consensus to at least move forward staff with proposing staff language that is appropriate within the intent of the law. And this is to really align town operations with a strategic vision for good governance and excellence.
Thank you very much. That
Thank
was
you,
very well done. And looking at our charter is long overdue. And this could be a starting point. And I thank you for really aligning it with our strategic plan and really articulating the means. And no offense was taken by that. So thank you.
Madam Mayor.
So we're looking for, it's not really a discussion so much, but I'm going to see, Councilman Gutenberg, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I mean, my comment on it is I really appreciate the quality of what you put together. And I think that the way that you have linked it to our strategic goals that we agreed in consensus on, and the way that you have traced it through the other initiatives and linked it to the process, I think is important, and it makes it something that then can be we can agree to, and we can put it in the hands of staff, and it is very clear, and it should be something that we can, as a group between town staff and the council, execute on, and as rapidly as a pace as the process allows. So I'm in support of what you prepared and presented to us as a council agenda item.
Do you have any comments, Councilman McCormick?
A couple questions for you, Councilman Johnson. First, thank you. Really well written. Article 3, Article 4. So salary, total compensation. I'm completely aligned with the rationale. I just have one question for you. How is this any different than the current protective measures that we currently have in place? So I know we have Resolution 2106, which determines already our salary as the sitting body. Does this go a step further? What's the, I get the intent. Why a charter change as compared to just continuing with a new resolution or ordinance or something like that?
Well, that's why I put that in there, that it might not necessarily be a charter change. It could just be an ordinance that defined what the word salary means in the code. And I will leave that to staff and the town attorney, which would think, obviously, the consensus of the council. Not to put you in the Chuck, but I think you will understand what the intent is. If it's easier to do a charter amendment, or if it's more feasible and appropriate to do an ordinance, I left that in there on purpose.
Sure. Now, to be fair, I am in favor of this, just so you know. I just wanted the explanation there. What is the difference between the two? I do want to call out something. The final part, the new article amendment resigned to run provision. This may be more of an operational question. Mr. Stevens, you probably have experience changing charters or amending charters or going through that process. Madam Mayor, you may as well. Is that just a brand new section that we're looking to do? Or are we trying to add that somewhere? Do you have a vision for where that fits into the charter right now?
Yeah, it says new article or amendment.
Okay.
To the charter, which means it could be a new article or, but a lot of this, obviously, I don't get to sit down with Chuck and draft the language, I don't believe. It'll be directed to staff and our special counsel to work out the legalese and within operations of law.
Perfect. And then the final question for you, outreach so far as the Ward 4 rep. What have you heard from folks as you kind of propose this to our residents? Or are you looking at this more as a, hey, this is self-governance. It's really the 5 of us and staff to kind of figure out.
Yeah, it's definitely the people's charter. It's the town's charter. I have not had any conversations with any residents, but that's why we have public hearings. And
Sure.
I think, the mayor mentioned the charter is long overdue.
Yes.
It's a deeper conversation that potentially requires a charter committee to really go through, to define what the intent is, or expand upon the intent.
Yep.
Or say, keep it, everything else is fine.
No. Well, thank you very much,
Thank
Councilman.
you.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
Thank you. And I think the first step is we kind of already have a charter committee-ish,
Yep.
the finance committee, to review any changes appropriate to the finance article.
Yeah.
But it is a deeper conversation than tonight. But just to get it
Absolutely.
started, I believe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilman Sampson, anything?
No, I'd like to say, excellent job.
Thank you.
I'm in support of it. That's all I have.
Thank you. And it is so timely. While you were doing your amazing job at MML Fall Festival, being a moderator, I was over at the charter amendment session, and I do have a slide deck that I will have Mr. Stevens send out,
Oh.
just so you can see some of the great things, great conversations that were had. It was really eye-opening how extensive this could be. So I think this is a first step for sure, but I'm going to ask Madam Clerk, could you please poll the council to see if there's a consensus to move this forward and put it on an agenda sometime in the future?
Councilman Gutenberg,
Yes.
Councilman McCormick,
Aye.
Councilman Sampson,
Yes.
Councilman Johnson,
Yes, thank you.
Mayor James.
Yes,
Mayor James, you've reached a consensus.
thank you very much. All right, next will be discussion on petition to Maryland MDE for aquifer reallocation. I'm going to give it to you, Mr. Stevens, so you can.
Okay, and I'm going to throw it right back up to the dais. This item was requested by Councilor McCormick.
Okay, floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Thank you, Council. I know we've talked about this twice. Once when Senator Ellis was coming to visit with the council. We talked about it during new council business, the meeting before that. And then we also talked about this at our September 11th retreat as well. So I want to ensure essentially here during the executive summary, the current situation that we face, which thank you very much to the staff for putting that together, the proposal I have here, and obviously how this intertwines with our, our ability and our strategic plan here to operate as a council is, have we truly pulled every lever we can to ensure that we're doing the best to protect the La Plata? So I think one of the levers that was interesting when Senator Ellis was here and we were talking one-on-one, and then again, we discussed during the September 11th meeting was, have we really figured out a way and have we pulled every lever we can to negotiate with agencies and bodies other than just Charles County and purchasing water through, this new proposed pipe and the memorandum of understanding that was briefed during the council reports. And we found that while yes, this body has petitioned MDE directly, we have not leveraged our state delegation. So all three state delegates and our state senators stated that they had not received any sort of instruction from La Plata or were even tracking this issue. And that's concerning, especially with Senator Ellis having served in a position that really could have helped us there, a year or 2 years ago. So what am I proposing here today? Essentially, what I'd like to do is I'd like to ensure that the town of La Plata's town council petitions our state delegation, so our state senator and our state delegates, to go to MDE to leverage and utilize their position in the state assembly, General Assembly, to figure out a way to modernize the water allocations here in Charles County. And what I mean by that is right now, and I'll sand off the edges, I do apologize, but it'll be a further discussion as we move on, is right now, there are several aquifers that Charles County and La Plata pulls from, and the aquifer that La Plata pulls from, Charles County is also pulling from. And the concern, obviously, is as Charles County pulls from that, La Plata pulls from that, the MDE wants to ensure that we don't run out of water in that aquifer. Makes perfect, total sense, good governance, environmental, everything that we're looking for residents, that makes sense. The issue here is, well, can Charles County find another way to utilize the aquifers that they can only pull from and give us the allocation back here in La Plata to ensure that we're protecting and managing our growth? And what I mean by that is, if we were to enter into what I would personally just, call a rushed MOU, right? Because that's kind of the options that we have here. Either enter into an MOU with Charles County in the way that the staff recommended, or find another alternative option. If we were to enter into that MOU with the staff's recommendation, my fear is that water capacity being available will make La Plata a hotbed for developers to come here and explode growth. Okay, that's my personal concern. It makes sense logically. And I think that's frankly a reality that we would have to face. Now, this council has an appetite for an adequate public facilities ordinance. We would have further protective measures in that future than we do right now today. But again, developers have a right to build, and La Plata would certainly become a hotspot for that development. What this allows us to do is actually control our aquifer, right? Ensure that we have the allocation needed to keep La Plata where we are today with our future developments on the books, and ensure that we don't have to ship in outside water, right? The other thing that's important here is when you talk about fiscal responsibility is what's the actual cost once we enter into this MOU? Even if we were to buy the water at cost, get a discount for it, put us in a really strong fiscal position, that explosion in development, which Director Dooley and myself had a conversation with here on the record, would put La Plata in a tough spot. And the reason it would put La Plata in a tough spot is what would happen is, as you continue to increase the tax base, you also have to remember that the expenditures increase as well. And they actually increase at an exponential rate, which puts us into a position which, we refer to as the death spiral of a town. So I think that this petition allows for us to pull another lever, gives us more negotiation power with the county, does not rush us into an MOU. Not that I think we're rushing into an MOU right now, but would give us another lever when we negotiate with Charles County here on our water issue, and actually engages our state delegation for the first time when it comes to this water issue. So that way, once a resident asks us, and many have you truly pulled every lever that you can? If we were to go with this proposal and have it occur simultaneously with the actions that the town council will direct the staff here locally, so you'll have a state agency advocating on our behalf, and obviously the town council giving direction to the town staff to advocate on the behalf of the La Plata residents, we could say yes. So I know that was a pretty long-winded explanation. I've given plenty of read-ahead information here. I've engaged I would say just below 100 residents on this issue. So not quite the efforts that Councilman Sampson did with Steeplechase. But I do have 5 FAQs in here as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions and see where does the council sit with the appetite to petition our state delegation on this issue.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councilman McCormick. just a few comments. One,
Sure.
we already gave our town manager staff direction to explore options with the county. Part of that options is the APFO. So I think right now this is a very premature request because we don't know what the outcome is. And to what you said is we don't feel like we're being rushed. I think we're really putting intentional efforts into what that looks like. This whole water thing is a long-term plan in general. I hate to mention Senator Ellis' name because he's not here to speak about it. But the one-on-one I had with him and his chief of staff was, I particularly mentioned the water conversation. I wouldn't say I particularly mentioned what you proposed, but I think from what I recall was the town need to have conversation with the county. I don't think it was, I don't recall him saying, get a letter of support to us. I think he will support that, right? Because he is our representative to the state. But I do recall his language being the town should work it out with the county first. Or, excuse me, have the conversation, negotiate is what we're doing now. That was what I recalled in my conversation with him. He obviously, everyone had individual conversations to what I understand, but, and the only thing I would say is this is very premature and we gave staff direction. And this is a longer issue at hand. We got the comprehensive plan due in 4 years, 3 years. I think, water conservation and all this stuff will go into what the long-term effect of, but I think the short-term effect for what you mentioned about the gold mine for development and people want to come to the town is the direction we gave staff with the APFO to just give the town a little bit more. I don't want to use the word protection, but I'll do it in quotation marks, but to sustain growth and stabilize smart growth in town for what that means to our residents. So I do believe it's premature. I'm not saying it can't be done, but I think we should allow staff to do the work that we directed them to do first and come back and say, great, that worked, or it did work, but it's not feasible to us, or it didn't work at all. What's plan B or C? That's my stance on it.
No, and I think you bring up a good point. And I appreciate bringing up that, hey, this looks premature. We've already directed staff to take an action with the county. Senator Ellis and MDE has stated that they'd like us to take an action with the county. Why do this simultaneously? And the reason is, and this working in the private sector and now being here on the council for a little bit, negotiation is all about leverage and positioning. And we need to ensure that we're not pursuing just one action here that, frankly, again, I think will put us in a position where La Plata will become a developer hotbed, gold mine, as you said, if we were to pursue that action. I think we want to give our council and our residents every available option out there. There's nothing in this petition that stops us from doing the staff work to continue the communication with the county and enter into a potential MOU or figure out a water allocation solution with them. What this does is it now engages our delegates and our senator to go to MDE and say, hey, listen, the La Plata Town Council has come together. They have a consensus. Most of their residents are concerned about this. Is there anything we can do to help them out? Right. And again, I don't think the two exist only with just a county plan or a state plan. I think both can exist simultaneously and actually give Mr. Stevens and the staff more levers to pull when they give us a recommendation, assuming these conversations go well.
Yes, first I got a question for town manager. This, I think, is pertinent to this. When, or I should say, where are we at on our APFO as of right now?
So Director Dooley and myself are working on that. We met with the county, I believe it was not last Friday because I was off, so it was the Friday before that. And that was a meeting where Director Dooley asked some very technical planning questions. I would characterize that meeting as being very productive and very collegial. Again, the county doesn't have any interest or oversight over our APFO, but because they've done it and because they're desirous of the town having that, we thought it would be very important that we work closely with them. So we are on track. Council's direction to staff was to make substantial progress on that APFO by the end of this year. and I'm confident that we're going to hit that target. I know that we are currently in the drafting phases. We're addressing primarily school seats and transportation to start. The water component of that APFO, believe it or not, I believe is relatively easy because we were just intending to capture what we are doing today in practice. Because there's nothing written that says we're not going to issue building permits or we're not going to go to final plat approval for subdivisions. We're doing that. So I think capturing that, that's the first thing, is get that into the APFO. So that's water, transportation, and school seats. And we are making substantial progress, and we hope to bring something forward to council to start looking at by end of year.
Okay, so the only thing I would say is I think we should reach out to the state delegation after the APFO. That's the only thing else. I think that makes sense since it's, you said the water portion is easy in the year, but I do think we should be using all avenues, and I think it's more appropriate because then we'll have more insight and information. So
Thank you very much. Councilman Kuhnberg.
Yeah. So my colleagues who have spoken already have been more generous than I'm going to be about this. This is, I'm looking at this report, and it is riddled with inaccuracies, first of all. I'm not going to go through all of them here. However, as you noted at the beginning of this, 3 very specific times this council has had engagements on this, some in preparation for discussions with the delegation from the Southern Maryland delegation to Annapolis. And in those conversations, I don't see the linkage to what you're doing here. When I will tell you, when I met in person with the delegation, and I'm talking about Deb Davis specifically, one of the things that was made clear to us at that meeting was, in the current environment, and just in the environment in general, that the expectation is not that we come as individuals to the delegation. I know that's not what you're suggesting here, but that is in effect what you're doing, because this council, in all of its previous meetings, has given very clear, explicit direction, including in closed session where you were with us. And this is in contradiction to the will of the council. And so if you don't like the way that council town manager government works, I don't know what to tell you. That's where we are. So as a body, the direction has been given. And this is an end run attempt around that. And it is an example of what is broken about our rules of procedure in the way that agendas are accepted. And that these kinds of things really should be discussed in a session that is a working session where we can talk about the details of what is trying to be done, and we can short circuit unnecessary amounts of preparation that we have to do to review this stuff, the amount of time that we spend here going through things. This is a body that convenes to take actions. This is not actionable. The actionable guidance has already clearly been given. Had we done this in a working session, I think this group, which is about to do what would have happened there, but in a much longer form, is going to have to go through this. But I do want to finish on the thread I was pulling with the discussion about how we interact with the delegation. There's other things that are come up tonight next that talk about reduction of revenue to the town. And I will tell you that one of the very key things that was said to us by the delegation was, their participation and their ability to help with problems that generally involve funding. Sometimes it involves legislation, but this problem involves funding and legislation to fix the kinds of problems that we have to have in their long term. Coming to them as a body who is reducing its ability to pay its way and work on its problems is not going to be seen in the budgetary climate that we have at the national and state level in a way that's favorable. Also, I'm surprised as I read this that we're being asked to do something now that is contrary to what we've done before. And I guess I'll just stop there. But it's it really just highlights to me, and I think that, and I'm speaking to all of my colleagues here on the council, like, I think we really do have to address the way that we bring things onto our agenda. You know, we get a mixed bag. We had one good one. We've got this one now as another example, not a great example. And I think we would be more effective if we solved these things in a working session before we come into these decisional meetings. That's all I had to say on that.
No, I appreciate the feedback.
Hang on a second.
Okay.
Everyone, point of order, right? We have not had, everybody on the council has not spoken, so you're not recognized at this point.
I'm allowed to respond. I'm the person giving it, just like if Mr. Stevens were to give a staff report.
I'm
You
sorry,
brought
no,
your
point
comment.
of inquiry.
I
Then.
get to respond.
Point of inquiry. I think if we look at our rule of procedures, right, one member of the council has not spoken yet. Am I wrong?
That's correct.
So I think after that member of the council speaks, then you would be responding to any statements made during the conversation, correct?
Because I don't think there was any question that you asked.
There are several allegations that were
But he
stated.
did- But he didn't ask any questions. So
Okay, that's fine.
thank you. And I would like to say what I've heard from my colleagues as well. This isn't the right time to do this. We have spoken with the secretary of MDE, and they gave us a clear direction to speak with the county, to go up and kind of usurp that. We risk alienating MDE from us, which we all know that right now we are very in thick with MDE. They are looking at many aspects of the town, and we need to work with them, not against them. So the fact that a direction was already given and council voted on that, I am not in favor of seeing this on a future agenda, but that is just my voice here, where we will take a poll for council to see if this is the will of the council, to see if there's a consensus to move forward. So Madam Clerk, could you please?
Do I get a chance to respond? Please?
Well,
It's
this
my,
is
it's my presentation.
It is.
There are wait, just real quick. In the rules of procedure,
Not been
a direct
recognized.
allegation gets
You
to get
have
addressed.
not been recognized, Councilman McCormick. So if you could please just have some decorum. And this is not a debate. This is for the agenda to be placed on the agenda. We're just getting a consensus to, is this moving forward? It's not, your debate comes when, if and when it is on an agenda, and you can levy your case there. You presented to us why you want it on here, and now it is up to council to take a vote to see if there's the will of the council to move it forward. It's not a debatable action. It is something that you presented, and there were questions that were asked, and you answered them efficiently. And now it is time to take a vote. So, or a consensus, sorry. Madam Clerk, could you please poll the council to see if there is a consensus to move this to a future agenda?
Councilman Gutenberg,
No.
Councilman McCormick,
Yes.
Councilman Sampson,
No.
Councilman Johnson,
No.
Mayor James.
No.
Madam Mayor, there is
Alright.
no consensus.
Thank you. That brings us to the next item here that I believe is also yours, Councilman McCormick. So if you would like to go right on into that one.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. And again, we can be upset with the rules, but this is how the rules work. So this is how you have to introduce policies and proposals. So similar to Councilman Sampson, I did engage with a ton of residents, different HOA organizations, different community action groups out there. And this was an idea that somebody came to me with and said, hey, listen, there's a homestead property tax credit cap. Is there something the town can do differently? And on the September 11th meeting, I brought this up to all 4 of you, 5 of us. And I said, hey, a unique idea that's kind of been out there and proposed was, is there a way that we can lower the homestead property tax credit cap here in La Plata to protect our residents? And 2 of you on this council incorrectly answered, no, there's nothing we can do. And I took it at face value and said, oh, okay, well, that's fine. But if there was, would there be an interest? And that answer kind of, remained wishy-washy. But as I started to dig into this and got some legal advice and looked into the actual homestead tax credit cap, language, I found that municipalities and counties can differentiate from the state with the assumption, right, that they operate less than what the state's cap is. So just for edification for everybody here in the executive summary that I've already provided to the council and to the mayor, the state of Maryland has a 10% homestead tax credit cap. What that means is if you live in a property and apply for the homestead tax credit, you cannot have your assessed value go up by more than 10% during an assessed period. Typically occurs every 3 years. So let's say we have a huge economic housing boom, right? And property values skyrocket. The state comes in, assesses your home and says, wow, that $300,000 home you bought back in 1980, it's worth, let's call it $320,000 in 83. And all the way by the time you get here to 2025, that $300,000 purchase you made back in 1980 is now worth, just call it $600K, just to keep numbers simple. Well, you're getting taxed on that assessed value, right? Obviously with that 10% cap built into it, but you haven't actually realized that game. You haven't sold the home. You have no guarantee of an income increase, but you're certainly getting taxed more. And what happens here is that town councils, both the current one that we have passed, county commissioners, state representatives will gladly say, we've never increased your tax rate, but we know every 3 years how the housing market has historically gone. We're expecting anywhere from 6.5% to 7% increase in tax revenue if all homes were to remain the same, strictly because of the housing market. And it's basically a blind tax that occurs and allows for budgets to essentially be built in the dark. Now, what do I mean by that? What do I mean by built in the dark? What I mean is, and Councilman Sampson brought this up on the campaign trail, and a ton of residents brought it up to me during the last 2 weeks when I was going out taking information and feedback on this issue, is you guys keep saying you haven't increased taxes in La Plata in decades up until 2024, but my bill is sky high. My property tax is sky. How is that happening? And they didn't realize that, well, this is one of the ways that unfortunately it occurs, is that every 3 years, your house will be assessed, most likely a higher percentage. And that's how a government can increase its revenue without telling the folks we're taxing you more. Now, Councilman Gutenberg has already kind of tipped his hand. He said, this is a plan that lowers revenue. That's not true at all. That's not true. This plan could lower revenue. It could greatly increase revenue. It has nothing to do with revenue. What this plan here has to do with is opening up the big T transparency. What happens is, if the town council were not to have, and right now in the last 3 years, the average property assessment value increase has been 6.5% here in La Plata. So we're within the 7% cap, but our folks are getting hit pretty tough by it. 6.5% increase, pretty rough. Is that we're building that into our plans. We're essentially increasing our tax revenue without explaining to our residents how we're doing it and how it's happening. Now, municipalities and towns have the ability, municipalities and counties have the ability to go against the direction of the state if it were to be more, meaning a greater tax saving to the individuals. There are several counties and several municipalities throughout Maryland that have plans as low as 5%, 3%, and even 0% on their homestead tax credit cap. Now, again, that town has to find ways to increase revenue. La Plata is famous for having a low tax rate, right? But again, we know that that tax credit cap build is already put into the plan. Furthermore, we know that, if we were to keep this completely flat, we would lose some tax revenue. What would happen then is the county would have to pass an actualized tax rate. What I mean by that is if a new proposal, a new plan, a new department, a new hire were to be brought into La Plata, instead of just having it built into that actual 6.5% increase in the property value, if we were to bring that to 0%, not have you get taxed anymore on it, we five would then have to have an open and honest conversation about where does the tax rate actually have to be. Okay? And that's how you can ensure that you don't actually lose tax revenue on this plan. Now, you may lose tax revenue because, spoiler, residents don't like to have their taxes increased. But I don't think it's fair that La Plata continues to do what, frankly, a majority of Maryland is doing, and we should do what a majority of the successful towns in counties in La Plata or in Maryland are doing, which is adopting a more aggressive homestead tax credit cap, giving our residents money directly back into their pocket. And if we are to take it, we should be open and honest in the budget process explaining This is why your tax rate went from 35 cents to 37 cents in year one and 41 cents in year two, or whatever it is, to meet the actual budget demands, instead of hiding behind an assessed value that comes in and says, well, with or without your consent, we're just going to continue to increase your property tax assessment, and that's how we're going to fund our budget. So this is not an issue about whether or not we're going to increase or decrease the actual revenue of the town government. All this does is increase the transparency with a big T. I will be very clear, since I don't have the opportunity to address, responses from council members here. They're all going to say, this is inappropriate. This is not a good time to bring this up. They're going to bring up issues and questions like, hey, this actually does lower tax revenue for the town. Again, please read through the report. That's clearly not true. It's in all the FAQs. And the other thing that's really interesting when you look through this report is if you're a council member or a staff employee and you feel that pain in your gut, you should. That's kind of the purpose of this plan. The plan is to make the five of us up here have a harder job when it comes to explaining why are we funding the departments and the services we do in this town. Town governments exist strictly to keep people safe, keep the water flowing, keep sewers flowing, and ensure that we all have a high quality of life. It's not to fund endless projects and hide them behind automatic increases that occur based off of property assessed values. So with that, I understand this is bold, this is hard, this is challenging. This is frankly what leadership looks like and what we should do. And again, if you look through the actual chart here, you will see the direct correlation needed to match the 7% cap right here. So in 10 years, we would strictly need to raise, if we want to keep the budget the same, from 35 cents to 44 cents. But that conversation would happen out in the open and residents could tell us yes or no. Right now, they don't even have that option. So with that, I'll yield my time and open it up to the floor.
All right.
All right. So I spent a lot of time with this. So I want to make sure that that I hit all the points. So I think I have a little bit different take on this maybe than Councilman McCormick was foreshadowing. So really important thing that I think is a distinction that has to be made in discussion of the 7% tax cap that he's talking about is that in your property taxes in the town of La Plata, that tax cap, that 7% cap only applies, but what this council can do to the typical homeowner in La Plata, 23% of your property tax bill. Okay, so it's really important if you're a property owner, and just as an example, you have a house that's assessed at $390,000 as an example, your tax would likely be around $6,000, but the town tax is around only $1,500 of that. Okay, so when we're talking about this, or when Councilman McCormick is talking about this, he's not talking about being able to affect your entire property tax bill. So let's be really clear about that. About 7% of your property tax is state tax. That has a 10% homestead cap on it today. Your Charles County tax, if you're a resident of La Plata, is about 66% of your total of every dollar that you spend on property tax, and that is capped at 7%. Same for the town, which is 23%. So, and then the only other piece of your property tax bill is 4% for fire and rescue. That is a bit of a difference if you live in not Heritage Green. If you live in the Heritage Green special tax zone, those percentages are a little differently. I'm not going to go into those here. I can talk to folks if they have questions about them. But that context that we are not talking about your entire property tax bill in the context of what Councilman McCormick is suggesting here. What he is talking about is just your town tax, which again, 23% of your property tax bill. So the plan that he presented to us, the plan that he's been taking around in public, and I presume a number of people have seen. I've gotten a couple of emails on it. It is bold. You use the word bold. I would use that word as well. Bold suppositions. Suppositions are strongly held beliefs that are not supported by fact. So the first bold supposition that's made is that there's immediate financial relief in this plan available to residents. Those are promises that he's making in this proposal. The reality is the immediate actions in his proposal, read it yourself, are that he is asking for us to have town staff do a comprehensive fiscal analysis and then hold a series of public hearings that would also get folded into this analysis and direction. And that is not immediate relief. It's a request to commit a significant amount of staff time and resources to determine whether his idea is even feasible. It's in his plan. You can read it yourself. So there's no reasonable expectation that that's going to happen immediately. The second bold supposition that he makes is that freezing property tax assessment values leads to affordability improvements. These are his words. He claims that doing that will allow us to return excessive or surplus funds collected back to residents through direct fee refunds, okay? The flaw in this is that this is a shell game that he's offering to us. This is a shell game between the assessed value of your property and the tax rates. When you get into the tables and look at it, that's what's doing. If you freeze property tax revenues because you cap things down at zero, where exactly are these so-called excessive funds going to come from? Right. And his own plan shows that to maintain current revenue, he has a table, a 10-year table, a scale of necessary tax rate increases. He just mentioned it here, and he walks you through everything you would have to do to replace that revenue. This means that residents will still pay more. The increases will just be relabeled instead of as a rate hike or as a rate hike. That's what they'll have to be called, a tax rate hike, instead of it traveling as a value increase with your assessable tax, the assessable value of your taxed property, right? So he offers no explanation also of what he would do to cut or reduce essential services, right? If you're going to reduce revenue, the town, I would love to see the list of these endless projects. We are in here tonight talking about a server that failed. That is in a fund balance. Later on in this plan, you're going to see that what he's saying is that we would mandate that fund balances have to be given back in the form of a service fee rebate. I don't know how we're going to do those things without raising taxes if we're going to do it that way. So the third bold supposition that he makes is that claims of tax stability based on unreliable data and methodology. He says that growth and turnover in homes will cover revenue needs. The math that he shows in this report, I promise you, go look through it. It will. You can't trace it through to what he's saying it will deliver. He's calculating an example base of 100 homes that rely on a subjective market value from Zillow. You don't rely on market values to come up with taxable property assessment taxes on a house. That is a market value versus an assessed property value. And I don't know why he didn't use the actual number of residents in the town. It's an easy number to get. We're the government, for God's sakes. The plan completely ignores rising costs of services, inflation on supplies, on materials, on infrastructure. These things increase every year, just like they do where residents buy goods and services. The town is experiencing this when we go buy trucks, when we have to go buy materials to operate the sewage treatment plant. All the same things are affected with the same factors. You can't avoid this economic reality, but the math in this proposal does. And what he's also offering with this stability, he's trading predictability for chaos. The plan that he is saying right now, the way your tax assessment works is it's predictable. It's as predictable as the tides. Every 3 years, your home value is assessed, and then it is phased in. Whatever that new value is, whether it is higher or lower, it is phased in over the next 3 years. His own tables show that rates must jump from 35 cents per $100 of assessed value to over 44 cents. And that's if you want to trust that math, but still over 10 years to stay level with the amount of revenue. And I don't know how you can avoid needing revenue growth over 10 years in an environment of inflation. His own tables show that. When you suggest avoiding rate increases by simply cutting costs, he offers zero specifications on what services would be cut. When you look at the budget, we provide essential services, water, sewer, trash. We provide basic function of government. Those are things that you have to have. You're not going to be able to cut those. When I look at this, I go, the only thing that's really available to cut is public safety. There's no mandate that you have to have X number of police officers. So when you have mandates on stormwater, on the way stormwater works, on having to deliver water and sewer to houses, I don't know where else you're left. The fourth bold supposition, mandated policy on enterprise service fee reduction is needed. Okay, so what he's arguing is that that the year-end surplus funds, as he calls them, should be automatically applied to the enterprise fund to reduce fees, rather than retained in reserve or applied to capital projects at the council's discretion. The reality is, the council has already demonstrated that kind of that fiscal thinking. Within just the last 4 months, we did apply a $40,000 in fund balance to the sanitation service because there was an $80,000 shortfall. And that was going to cause a rate increase. The rate increase that it was going to cause was 8% fee increase for trash. We added that $40,000 at budget time as a council, and that rate was reduced to 4%. And the irony of this is that if Councilman McCormick voted against that action, right? It seems so before imposing a policy on this council, that he should hold himself accountable to that kind of fiscal responsible thinking. And the danger of forcing the council to return fund balances as cash back robs us of the flexibility that the council needs to make long-term infrastructure investments like water, sewer, and stormwater projects, which are the best way that this council can control the cost of enterprise service budgets. And that means the amount of money you pay in the long term for your water service, for your sewer service. When, you know, this is a story that plays out over and over again. When these things get pushed year to year, you get to a point where you can't avoid costs any longer, and you have to make reinvestments in these things. And we have an age of infrastructure problem in La Plata. The fifth one, and I'm almost done. The fifth one is annual tax revenues based on growth and reserve tables. They're masking a gap here. So he's using his own example. He uses a $300 house, right, in one of his examples. If you freeze the taxable assessment for 10 years, if you do the math on that, that house over 10 years, that single house generates half of the tax revenue that we would have expected. His tables show a 20% reduction. The way he does that is he comes up with a baseless 12.5% growth rate to new homes every year, making the revenue loss look lower on how that would travel through. I mean, you know, pull out Excel and spend a Saturday afternoon, you can come to the same answer using his numbers. Just follow through it. So kicking the can, right? His graphic shows that the revenue gaps are minor in the first 3 years. So he's got a graph where it shows how it gets bigger and bigger as you go on. And the reality of what it is, when you look at this plan, or if you're a person that has looked at it, the biggest problems come later on. So as you march through this plan and do it the way he's proposing, the first 3 or 4 years, it's just a little bit we have to make up. So maybe just a little bit, maybe we can find something here or there and get a little bit of a tax increase, and we get ourselves out of hot water, or maybe do just enough cuts to get ourselves out of hot water. But as it marches along each year and inflation continues, the costs continue to go up. So this council doesn't have to deal with the big problems that this plan of Councilman McCormick's would make. The future councils and the future residents and the future town staff are going to have to deal with catastrophic revenue shortages that are going to cost tax increases in order to dig themselves out of. And this is a story that has happened. There's examples. You can go research it online. There's cities that have done this in the past. In Kansas, Baltimore City had its own experimentation with this as well. And it was devastating and years, decades in the making to dig out of. So the last bold supposition that I want to go into is he implies that spending is out of control, and he leaves out the real impact of increasing operating costs in the real world we live in. His proposal implies that our spending is reckless and leaves out real impact on increasing operational costs. While La Plata's tax rate do not increase year after year, costs do. And while Councilman McCormick has only lived here 18 months and is a first-time home buyer here in Maryland, I understand. I've lived here long enough, and I know that 2 other of my council members have lived here and owned homes long enough that they remember in 2007 when we had an economic downturn, right? That was real. I'm a guy sitting here who's lost money on a house. This constant up doesn't always happen, right? And it will happen again. Is it going to happen next year? I don't know, but it might. So the thing I would need to say about that is that in those times, assessed property values did decline. In my experience, owning property here in La Plata. During those events, the town's operating costs, they remain the same. And so populism is not the way to go here, being prudent. Residents benefit the most from prudent management of retention of reserve funds that satisfy and sustain essential services when things like that happen. It could be natural disasters, but it could also be lowering rates in accessible taxes. Self-reliance. We're not going to be able to rely on the federal government and the state to come in and bail us out if we are reserving and if we're eliminating our own ability to help ourselves. And then real quick, he's got 5 key questions that he says are frequently asked questions from residents, right? So does the proposal lead to higher taxes? Councilman McCormick says, nope, they don't. Well, the reality is, right, I've just explained a bunch of stuff, but the reality is the current system provides that reliability of a 3-year phase-in, right? His plan replaces this with unpredictability and politically charged annual tax rate hikes. Isn't that going to be fun having to sit in here every year, especially on election year, if you're a resident and you have to think, oh, what do I need in my escrow this year? What are these guys going to do? No offense, Madam Mayor, but what is this group going to do to my taxes this year? They're going to punt? Are they going to take more? Did they punt the last 2 years and now we have to make it back? It's ridiculous. Our budget's discussion hidden. His claim is that budget discussions on essential services and capital improvements need to be forced into the open. This claim is misleading. And all discussions related to our budget occur in public session, which by definition is on the record. He's always asking us to be on the record. The moment the gavel is hit and we start the meeting, we're on the record. His assumptions that growth alone will fund all future needs are demonstrably false. It's not another how. If you take the math, and I did this weekend, if not another house was built for 20 years, right, you could not keep pace with inflation because infrastructure wears out. So if you just said, look, we're not going to let another developer come in here, right? No more growth. La Plata is great the way it is. Cap all the taxes, everything stays the same. Well, inflation still goes, infrastructure wears out. Guess what? We're right back to raising taxes, right? Raising the tax rate, because if you don't have the way the revenue works in this, and by the way, 157 municipalities in the state of Maryland, only 5 of them have a 0 on their cap. So 152 municipalities in the state of Maryland are using the same method that we are using. This is how you operate a municipal government. Municipals and counties are where the service is delivered. And it's funded through property taxes. That's life in America, ladies and gentlemen. Is it automatic surplus return the best relief? The best way to provide relief is direct, according to his claim, is that you give direct annual returns of fund balances as cash back in people's bills. The reality is that is short-sighted and it's fiscally irresponsible because it ignores infrastructure problems. It ignores, if you have a house and you have a leaky roof, if you have you see on your ceiling, you see that spot starting to appear. If you can ignore that, it's not coming through yet. It cost you $200 to fix it this year, but you let that come all the way through and persist for another year or two. Now you got a $10,000 problem. right? And so that's what this kind of thinking is going to put us in the position of on this council if we enact a policy that does what he's recommending, which is to just take fund balances, return them back to give relief. And by the way, another number you could do, right? And I'm going to wrap up because I know I'm going too long. I apologize, but another number is you take say you find $1 million in savings, which is a gigantic hole in our budget. Let's say you find $1 million, and now you're going to give that all back to residents. Take $1 million and divide it over 4,700 homes. It's less than $200. In fact, it gets down into the range of probably what you pay for maybe Netflix a month in savings, maybe. And meanwhile, what is the town going to do? How much longer are we going to avoid payment on things we have to do? It's just, the very last thing I'll say is, again, I'll just reiterate the thing I said, like this kind of stuff coming to us poorly prepared like this. And I'm sorry I went on so long. I apologize, but there is nothing that we do as a body that is more important than taxation. And there is nothing we do that is more important. And the stuff that came in this report, the bold suppositions that came in this report from Councilman McCormick are irresponsible, should not have seen the light of day on this council. He can go stand on the steps, spend all his time on Facebook peddling this stuff. I don't care. But bringing that level of flawed math, the level of incoherence in what he's suggesting in here and asking us to make a decision on it is just another reason why we have got to fix our rule of procedures so that we deal with these things in a way where it doesn't have to be dealt with like this. We can have a discussion, talk about the merits, talk about the in a shortened way what we want to pursue as a goal. And as Councilman McCormick brought up, he brought it up at our session. Where we decided our goals and our strategy for the next 6 to 12 months. And this was not part of what this council adopted. And yet again, so here we have it. This the agenda, the councilman's agenda item is being used as a way to try and short circuit that and go directly to the people and make us all feel shame, that pain in our gut that he wanted us to feel. I actually felt a little pain for the resident that emailed me from Washington Square. Told me that she wanted me to support what you were saying because she was hanging on by her fingernails. But what you're offering her is a shell game, and it's not going to give her the thing that she wants. And it's regrettable that you're giving people hope that they can have some kind of relief that really is not even a thing that you could act on because it is not well thought out. And it's that's all I'll say. Thank you. I'm sorry. Sorry for taking too much time, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much. Apology accepted. All right. Councilman Sampson?
Okay, thank you. So as I looked at the proposal, what I saw was a bigger budget discussion, things that should be brought up during a budget cycle. Okay. And so first, let me say it up front, as constructed, I cannot support this as constructed. What I would, and I don't know, and you can tell me if I can or cannot, propose as an alternate is that we amend this, go to budget process and look at, and we have to have staff run the numbers, 0.5% reduction. Okay. And also we can encourage the residents to file for their homestead exemption. That's something we can do that's actually beneficial. But just so it's clear why I can't support this as constructed, and I will go through it and I'll make this as brief as possible because this does bring to light some of the concerns that I have that I've voiced before. Number one, our town does not have a diversified income stream of revenue. That is one thing. We are heavily dependent on property taxes. We're not a big state where if you were in a big state, you might try this, but, and when I say try this, I'm talking about going to zero, a zero cap. All right. We don't have any big businesses. We don't have anything. So if we were to go to zero, as Councilman Gutenberg said, with the rate of inflation, Charles County would still be raising their rates, which is blended in with our rates. We would not be able to keep up. All right, so that's the first thing. We would need more business, more development, more industry in our town. So that's one reason. The second reason is that basically, if there is an economic downturn, I'm not sure we could actually pay our bills. We might default. I'm talking about the town defaulting. Why? We just took out, and correct me if I'm wrong in the numbers, approximately a $7 million loan, which I had questions about that, which I raised before. We also have previous debt that we owe. We run a deficit in our current budget every year. I'm talking about in a general sense. All right. Which is one of the reasons we have to move money around to cover things. And so our fiscal stability right now, without going into our reserve funds, I don't know if it could support this thing going out in the out years. What I would see happening is something like this, and I only disagree with Councilman Gutenberg on this one point, but I think it actually supports his point at the same time. If we were to put this cap in place that is at zero, what would actually happen is that as the assessed value goes up, because remember, we're still on a rolling basis year to year. So those taxes or those assessments that we haven't paid yet, meaning they haven't come to fruition because everything is phased in, is still coming in. Yet our revenue is flat as those values are still going up because those are still being phased in. What I see happening is we would have to make cuts over time to our biggest departments, which would be law enforcement and public works, because that is really where the money is at. I can't support a cut to the police department or public works. That is really where the money is at. But what I would suggest, though, is that if the goal is to provide relief, we look at a reduction. We look at encouraging people through an education campaign to file for their homestead exemption. And we bring up that reduction, you know, and if the numbers look good, we do it. If it don't look good, we don't do it. I think that would be the appropriate venue. I think that's plausible. And but as currently constructed, I can't support this the way it is.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your explanation. Councilman Johnson.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So first, I think a week and a half ago, I had the opportunity to attend the Maryland Municipal League Excellence and Leadership Fall Conference. And there was opening statements by Brooke Williams, who is a city manager in Texas. And actually, the Academy actually sent the email out today with that opening statement. So Chuck, I forwarded it to you. I will ask that you forward it to the balance of the council. I think it's critical that we all watch it if you wasn't there. Or if you was there, rewatch it. It is amazing. Coming out of the retreat, Chuck gave this, was it the airplane analogy or the flight analogy? And the 30,000 foot is the priority action items. And the council established those priorities, and the staff goes implement those priorities at the 30,000 foot level. So one, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for posting this on Facebook and gave me time to do some research and education. Unfortunately, Facebook was our work session for this. And while you followed the procedures to get this on the agenda correctly, sure, it goes back to the conversation earlier why we need to have work sessions to make sure we're not in this type of predicament. Not necessarily the conversation, but the where we're going today. So one, I just have many concerns about the long-term fiscal implications of this proposal. So freezing taxable assessments at 0% for homestead removes a critical mechanism that allows our revenue to grow in line with inflation and property values, even when that growth is modest. This isn't a hidden tax, it's a reflection of market trends. Eliminating this mechanism could destabilize our budget planning and force future councils into what was used, I believe, by Councilor McCormick, politically difficult decisions, such as raising tax rates just to maintain current service levels. We risk creating a structural deficit, not because of overspending, but because we cut off a predictable, market-aligned revenue stream. Additionally, automatically applying surpluses, which is more accurately referred to as fund balances, to utility fee relief may sound appealing, and it does, but it significantly limits our flexibility. These fund balances are already being used strategically to support capital projects, could respond to emergencies, and build reserves. For example, in this fiscal year alone, fund balances are supporting a few initiatives, and just to name a few: $27,500 for neighborhood traffic calming, $22,500 for townwide sidewalks improvement, $35,000 for Southwest Access Management and Safety, $150,000 for a pump station upgrade in Clark's Run, $500,000 for storm water MS4 compliance, $150,000 for Park Foundation and Graydon, safety management across town, $250,000 for lead service line studies that's federally mandated. These are real, tangible investments in our community safety, infrastructure, and quality of life, just to name a few. That is not all that fund balance treasure. Earlier this year, we heard from our treasurer, who is actively working with department heads to better align budgets with actual costs. Mandating fee relief as the default use of fund balances could tie the hands of future councils and reduce our ability to govern strategically. Transparency is essential, and as stated, nothing about the budget is hidden. We hold public hearings, and we have these conversations in the opening. However, we can achieve it through clear reporting, better public engagement, and improved communications. If residents are unclear about how the assessments or fund balances work, to Councilman Sampson's point, let's focus on education and outreach, but let's not undermine our financial foundation in the name of optics. This proposal may sound like it's about relief and transparency, but it risks long-term instability. We must be stewards of the town's future, not just its present. That means preserving flexibility, equity, and sustainability in our financial policies. I researched several tax relief programs elsewhere. While Baltimore City's Renew Baltimore initiative isn't a homestead cap per se, it's a cautionary tale. The Maryland Center on Economic Policy found that this proposal will force deep service cuts and potentially drive residents out of the city. One headline from the study that stood out: proponents' promises are fantastical. Similarly, in Kansas, 2012 tax cuts promoted a path to economic growth, resulting in revenue losses so severe that the legislature had to reverse course just 5 years later in 2017. These examples, while not identical, highlight the risk of cutting off essential revenue streams. Other jurisdictions in Maryland that have homestead caps often benefits, and when I say homestead cap at 0%, benefit from alternative revenue sources, such as a strong commercial tax base, something that we do not currently have here in town. For context, among the Maryland 23 counties and Baltimore cities, only Talbot County has set its homestead tax cap at 0%. That's just 4% of county governments. Of the 157 municipalities across the state, only 5 have adopted a 0% homestead cap. That's 3% of all municipal governments in the state. Notably, all 5 of them are located on the Eastern Shore, including the town of Ocean City. Ocean City is a unique case. It benefits from a robust tourism economy, with 26% of its budget coming from other taxes outside of real property tax revenue. This diverse revenue stream allows them to offset the impact of a 0% cap, something most municipalities, including ours, simply do not have. Finally, I want to highlight the importance of the tax differential provided by Charles County to our residents. Charles County is one of 7 counties in the state of Maryland that offer direct savings to its residents. This differential reflects the services our town provides and reduce the county tax burden on our residents. It's critical that we continue to work with staff to tell a compelling, data-driven story that supports a stronger differential year over year. My ask is, let's just be thoughtful, not reactionary. Our goal should be to maintain the services that our residents rely on and avoid underfunding based on a political move that may feel good now, but cost us dearly in the future. I recognize that any form of tax is intimate to every American or every taxpaying citizen in the states, not just here in La Plata. You know, I ran on good governance and transparency. I don't think anything we've done on this body has been hidden outside of what the law allows for many reasons. I do know we practice good governance amongst each other. We have staff that is working hard on our policy and procedures. And I ran on good governance and transparency, not for the short term, for the long-term stability of the town. It was, says 1888. I don't think anybody in my family, well, maybe it was thought of, but I sure wasn't. So, and I'm sure it's going to be here well long when I'm done serving on this council or when I'm long gone to the next universe. So while Councilwoman McCormick, I recognize your intent to provide relief, it will only be in the short term. That's the fact. To Councilor Gutenberg's points, you know, we have the hard conversation, raise taxes. Sure, it is a hard conversation. Whether you bring this proposal forward or not, it is going to be a conversation. If town manager and the town treasurer and the financial committee come to us and say, you have to do this, it's going to be a conversation regardless with this homestead cap or not. But where that conversation will lead, well, ultimately depends on the time of year that budget is being had. Is it year one of our term or is it year four? And there's only two people that suffers: the town in general and the residents, because they are not going to be able to get the services that they so rightfully expect. So with that, those are my comments, and hope I was a little bit shorter than everyone.
Thank you. We were put in a tough situation here. If we voted no, we don't care about the residents and tax relief. If we vote yes, then we are complicit to following or to accepting erroneous information here. So it is, it will be played out, I'm sure, and it'll be played out on social media, but we owe it to our residents for the long term, not right now, here and there. We've got to look tomorrow, month from here, a year from here, 5 years from now. Many of us may not be here. Many of us may flee the state and go elsewhere. We need to think about generations to come. And by going with this tax relief, which I brought to MML, and this is what I love about MML, is it is 157 different towns and 4 special taxing districts that we all come together and we bounce ideas off of each other. And I bounce this idea off of, I'm also the president of the Maryland Municipal Mayors Association. And they were horrified that this would even be brought up because it is short-term thinking. It is not long-term thinking. Well, I appreciate the effort on this. I'm just going to leave it at what my colleagues have said. They have said so much more than I wish to say this evening. So with that, Madam Clerk, could you please take a poll of the council to see if there is a consensus to move this forward to a further agenda and future agenda?
Councilman Gutenberg,
No.
Councilman McCormick,
Yes.
Councilman Sampson,
No.
Councilman Johnson,
No.
Mayor James.
No.
Madam Mayor, you've not reached a consensus.
Thank you very much. So next on our agenda is legislation. First one is Resolution 25-25.
All right, council, this is Chuck Stevens, your town manager. This is Resolution 25-25, Utility Bill Assistance for both Plato residents and businesses. This is for introduction and consideration of adoption. This is a resolution concerning utility bill assistance for town residents and businesses for the purpose of assisting those affected by the federal government shutdown with town of La Plata utility charges for residents and businesses by providing an extension to the due date, waiving penalties and fees, and establishing a new due date and all matters generally relating thereto.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to adopt Resolution 25-25 as presented?
Said motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please do a roll call for a vote?
Councilman Gutenberg,
Yes.
Councilman McCormick,
Aye.
Councilman Sampson,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor James.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you very much. Brings us to Resolution 2526 for introduction and consideration of adoption.
Okay, this is Resolution 25-26, purchase of security cameras. This is a resolution concerning purchase of security cameras for the purpose of authorizing the town manager to enter into a contract purchase agreement for the purchase and installation of equipment and components for the security camera system at town-owned facilities and all matters generally relating thereto.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to adopt Resolution 2526 as presented?
So move.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please take a roll call to, for yay or nay to adopt Resolution 25-26 as presented?
Councilman Gutenberg,
Yes.
Councilman McCormick,
Yes.
Councilman Sampson,
Yes.
Councilman Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor James.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, the motion passes.
Thank you very much. And the last piece of legislation is Resolution 25-27.
Okay, this is Resolution 25-27, Town Hall Host Server Replacement. This is a resolution concerning replacement of Town Hall Host Server for the purpose of authorizing the town manager to enter into a contract purchase agreement for the purchase and installation of information technology equipment at Town Hall and all matters generally relating thereto.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to adopt Resolution 25-27 as presented?
So moved.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please do a roll call?
Councilman Gutenberg,
Yes.
Councilman McCormick,
Yes.
Councilman Sampson,
Yes.
Councilman Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor James.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, the motion passes.
Thank you very much. That brings us down to the final part of our agenda today, new business reports from mayor and town council. I'm going to start with Councilman Gutenberg.
Okay. My voice is hanging in there. Had the pleasure of attending the MML conference with the mayor and with Councilman Johnson. This was my first MML conference, and it was a fantastic experience being able to talk through the kinds of issues that other elected and town staff folks deal with in their towns. Really just helps the development of folks that attend develop the skill set that's needed to navigate the complex things that we deal with here. I just really appreciated the time with being able to talk in the side off to the side with various folks, and really appreciated the professional development that's provided by the town's participation in the Maryland Municipal League, the support that they give us, and the connections that are made while we're there. The mayor has talked to us about that in the past, and having been through it now, firsthand experience of that is I can't recommend it enough to my fellow council members, and whenever town staff can attend to. I mean, I think it's just it's so valuable for all of us, and really appreciated it. I think that's all I'll say. I've used my voice enough tonight, so I'll go ahead and just pass along to the next person. Thank you.
All right, Councilman McCormick.
Yes, thank you. 2 days to recognize and then 2 things to call out with the town for new business. So 9/23 was National Voter Registration Day. So I'd like to take this opportunity to remind everybody out there in La Plata that's listening or presently here, make sure your voter registration is either up to date or you register for the first time. We want to get as many folks involved in the process as possible. 10/10 was Mental Health Awareness Day. So I'm sitting here in the Ward 2 seat. I know Councilman Trollinger before me and the previous council did a lot of work to make La Plata one of the places that was a really safe space for folks to talk about mental health and receive the help they needed. So I want to call that out. 10/10 was Mental Health Awareness Day, and that's something that's very important to obviously the previous council, to myself, and I hope obviously this council as a whole. So 2 things I want to call out for new business. So one is, and I kind of tipped my hand here a little bit, is the Finance Committee meeting that occurred earlier this month. Please take an hour and a half out of your day. I know it's a little long. You could put YouTube on 2x speed so you can watch in about 45 minutes. But it was an incredibly fruitful and good conversation, I think, for what's about to happen with this council, which we kind of started on September 11th, to Mr. Stevens' point, which is the budget process. So a couple of things that were brought up there that I'd like to just reiterate to the public as we have a little bit of a larger audience and different audience here. So first, Mr. Stevens made a really interesting point. He said the budget is literally the policy document from the council. Essentially, we give the direction to the staff. They come up with the game plan, they pitch it back to us, and we have a back and forth dialogue. And I thought that was excellent. Thank you very much for setting a left and right limit there. But one of the words that you used that I really want to make sure that we stress is, you said a lot of these conversations are about to be emotionally charged, as you probably saw tonight. And that's, a budget is emotionally charged. It deals with salaries, it deals with services, it deals with taxation, which Councilman Gutenberg rightly called out as the most important thing that a council does. And I'm really excited to look forward to those conversations and see how do we best ensure that we have the interest of the people of La Plata at heart, our town service departments at heart, and ultimately our safety at heart. So I think that Finance Committee meeting is definitely worth a listen. Another thing that was interesting, that Finance Committee, was the definition of a balanced budget. So Maryland State has the definition as revenues and reserve funds matching expenses. I thought Mr. Stevens did a great job. What he would like to see, and I speak for myself, I totally agree, is you want to see just total revenue match the expense. You don't want to dip into any reserve fund at all. So I really appreciate bringing it up. And then finally, a part of that emotional charged conversation was the tools in the toolbox discussion, which happened about 60% of the way through the meeting. And you brought up a UNC Keegan School study there, which was different levers that a council can pull. And they're not always fun levers, okay? They're not always fun levers, but they are levers that the council can pull. There are some good levers that the council can pull to provide even more services. Obviously, that comes with a cost. But again, I hope everybody gets an opportunity to really watch that meeting, because I think it was a great appetizer and palate setter to the discussions we're about to have here in November, December, January, February, March, April, all the way to May. And I really want to commend you, Mr. Stevens, for going to that meeting, our treasurer in the back there, Ms. Larson, and all our excellent volunteers that really did a great job of, okay, this is the Finance Committee's left and right limit. This is what we should expect from our staff, and this is what we should expect from our council. So thank you very much for that.
Yes, we had a design review board meeting earlier this month. We voted to approve the exterior design changes with certain conditions to the C-store over on 606 Charles Street. So that meeting went very well. Also, just for awareness, I had a lot of positive feedback, meaning that I had a lot of people that were happy with the already or upcoming community events based on the year's mini grants. And I had a lot of inquiries so far about other community groups wanting to apply. And I think I've sent at least one or two of those your way. Also, I had positive feedback from the businesses and from the church over there at the intersection of Port Tobacco and 6 or Charles Street. They said that the traffic cameras were having an impact. They could see that there was a slowdown, or traffic is slowing down. So I guess some revenue is coming in from tickets, I guess. But they were saying they can see a slowdown during peak times. That was a big complaint, especially by United Methodist Church, is that especially on when school is out, so they have a pre-K over there. I say school, but a pre-K, that traffic was horrendous. And also on Sundays when worshipers are there. So I just wanted to bring those up. And one last thing before I forget, I want to thank the council. I will be awarding 2 certificates of recognition for community service. One to Miss Sandy Woodward. She runs the Mary and Loretta Food Pantry. And they give out about 50 to 75 meals a month. And that's in one Sunday. They usually get way up there during the holidays, Thanksgiving, and also to the willing helpers. They will also be providing free meals. They do this all the time. But upcoming for Thanksgiving, I do know, because I've been to one of them, they do provide our first responders, if they want to, free meals. And I know they've provided them, at least some of the employees, first responders, free meals before and other artifacts. I want to thank the council for that. That's all I have.
All right.
Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor James. So just a few comments. One, to echo on to Councilman Gutenberg's comments about Maryland Municipal League. It was a great experience up on the Western or Mountain, Maryland. Excellence in Leadership Conference, over 300 municipal officials and industry experts to support and learn from across the state. During the conference, I attended sessions on risk management, municipal budgeting, and the state's planning approach for the upcoming General Assembly session that will be taking place in January. I did get 2 of the PowerPoints, one on the municipal budgeting and risk management. I believe I sent those to you. If the balance of council wants them, I think they were very helpful. Talk about Wills Park. Monitoring the Facebook group, a lot of comments around the Wills Park playground. The replacements included in this fiscal year budget, and the Parks and Rec Commission have reviewed 2 design concepts at our September 10th meeting to the community. I know I responded directly to you all in the group, but that information has now been relayed to staff, and we'll look forward to an update in the coming months. Unfortunately, we only have 5 meetings left this fiscal year, or this calendar year, excuse me, not fiscal year. Secondly, not to steal nobody's thunder, but you might say it. Congratulations to Detective Royce, who received his 40 under 40 award today from the International Association of Chief of Police. And that is a prestigious international award given to approximately 40 law enforcement professionals throughout the country, or really internationally, that's under the age of 40, who demonstrate exceptional leadership, dedication, and service to the profession. And I'm sure you're just going to say it, so you get on to it. So thank you, and I'm done my comments.
You did steal my thunder, but that's all right. I have a whole lot more. And you did not, because you were not bragging about yourself. I kind of mentioned it a little bit. You've only been in office, what, how many? I could do days. But,
We could do dog years.
yes, but yeah, it's so true. And you were a moderator at your second MML event. So congratulations to you. That is really good.
Thank you.
Before I start my mayor's report, I would like to note that we have just been made aware of a complaint filed against the town regarding a potential violation of the Open Meetings Act. And Mr. Stevens, could you just elaborate on that just a
Sure.
little bit, please?
Sure, Council. I let you know a couple of weeks ago that we were notified by the Open Meeting Compliance Board that they received a complaint, and it was involving the allegation was that we held a closed session that wasn't properly noticed, among other allegations. And it was referencing the September 11th retreat. And so, obviously the town's position is that we did not hold a closed session. In fact, we talked about it openly. We talked about it 2 days prior in this room. The town did publicly notice that time, date, location, purpose of the meeting. And we, the staff, we developed a response, sent that back to the Open Meetings Compliance Board, and we'll hear back from them in the next 30 days or so. While we're confident that we operate in a transparent manner, and that is our goal, we can always strive to do better, and we will wire brush ourselves if they come back and tell us that we had a misstep or missed a procedure or somehow we weren't doing everything exactly right. We will own that. I will own that, and we will make whatever changes they recommend. But I did want the council to know, and we did want to talk about it publicly. We're not going to hide around it. We received this complaint. Staff responded to it yesterday, and now we will wait to see what the OMCB says.
Thank you very much. And you know what? We're always learning, so we'll take that. So my report. Over the past few months, I have reviewed and researched more than 75 municipal attorneys and firms to identify those with strong experience in local government. I've spoken with several firms and attorneys and have had some meetings, and I have some scheduled meetings in the coming weeks. As I heard from council, the focus has been on larger firms with deep municipal expertise. Though as expected, that level of experience comes with a higher cost to partner with. A few firms have been very candid and declined to pursue the opportunity, citing concerns about the environment they've observed with our council. And while the feedback, like I said, is very candid, it's also constructive as we continue to process finding the right long-term partner. So the process remains active, and I will provide additional updates as warranted. Recently, I attended the final session of a 4-part series hosted by MDOT's Secretary's Office in partnership with MPAC, which is a nonprofit that partners with states and local governments to improve transportation planning, and AARP. This was fantastic. There were 4 sessions, one of them that was held here, the other partner that the other town that they mirrored was Mount Airy, and we talked about places where we can strengthen our walkability and biking. So it was a really fantastic roundtable about transportation and talked about the safety challenges and actually for aging Marylanders and caretakers. So that was, we will get a report back about that in the future. I had the opportunity to meet with the Acting Secretary of Transportation and her team during the annual Consolidated Transportation Program Tour hosted by the county. It was great meeting with all of them and hearing their projects that they're currently having, not only going statewide, but just in our county as well. They have been so responsive to the town of La Plata that I just complimented them, gushed a little bit, but there was only one ask, and this ask has been going on for a few years, but I asked them to look, to take another opportunity to look at having the Continental Crosswalk established at the entrance of Kings Grant for safety. So I did get an email the other day saying that that is in the queue, and they will be looking at that again. I participated in a very productive coffee and conversations with Marcy Leggett, founder and CEO of the Training Playground, and this was hosted by the Chamber of Commerce. And it was really neat because what she did was she gave us an opportunity to look at our jobs, and they were all different jobs, through different lenses, and how we can be impactful by just making one little tweak for 90 days. I'm not going to tell you what the tweak is that I am making for 90 days, but I'll tell you in 90 days if it really worked. So it was really neat. She was energetic, and I would really recommend seeking her out because she really did a nice job. There was a ribbon cutting for Rootbound Farms over the weekend. I think it was last weekend. And they're our success story. They started off from their house making soaps and lotions and lip balms, and then they took it to the farmer's market, and they're still at the farmer's market, but now they have a storefront, and they are over there at Therapeutic Body Works, located on St. Mary's Avenue, right near the Green Turtle. So stop by and shop local, especially coming up on Shop Small Saturday, the Saturday after Thanksgiving. I won't go over the MML Fall Leadership Conference because my colleagues did a great job, but wow, it was fun. And I did ride the coaster there, and I screamed the whole way down just because I could. Community events coming up. We've got this weekend, Trick or Treat Trail and Movie on the Lawn. So Trick or Treat Trail is 12 to 3 here. You can come in costume or not. And then we have a spooky movie on the lawn, 6 to 9 p.m. Here on Saturday. It's free. Bring your chairs, your blankets, because it's getting a little chilly there. But and you don't have to dress up if you don't want to, but it's another event that you can bring your family to. If you haven't had a chance to vote for your favorite scarecrow yet, please do. Voting ends on Sunday, October 26th. There are some really, really creative ones out there. So take a walk around downtown and look at that. Go on our website. You'll see where they are located. There's a map there. And lastly, one of the greatest honors I had recently was interacting with one of our residents. We received a call that there was a Marine that was celebrating a birthday, but more than that, we wanted to celebrate her life. Her family had called us and said, you know, we want her to know she was loved. And boy, I tell you what, our police department, in matter of short notice, and I'm talking hours, we had 3 police officers and 10 of the American Legion riders, bicycle or cyclists or motorcyclists, gathered together, and then the mayor. And we went by this resident's home, and we were able to just thank her for her service. And she did 40 years as a civilian in the Navy, and it just absolutely made the family's day. So it is moments like this that we treasure. So I was honored to be part of that. And that concludes my report. And meeting adjourned, 9:02. Thank you.